I didn't like to do PE in school. I hated like physical activity in school
Really?
because we weren't able to shower after we like did it, and our uniform was like hot and thick, and even the summer uniform was like a long skirt. It was like a short sleeve top but with like sleeves, and it was just like a thick material, and like we could wear the PE uniform for PE, but then we had to change out of it back into the heavy uniform and be in that for the rest of the day without a shower. So I was like, fuck
Oh.
no, man. Like, you see how much I sweat. I was like, there is no way I'm getting sweaty and having to put that uniform back on. So I used to make an
Oh.
excuse every day. And it's so funny because now I'm like an athlete.
So what, like, yeah.
So where I grew up, we lived on 3 acre property, but in suburbia. So my parents used to have this rule, like if we had 1 hour of screen time, like TV, computer, whatever, we had to have at least 2 hours off. And they were always trying to like force us outside, and like, I mean, we had toys, but like most of our activities were like doing things, like building things, creating like forts out of the dirt pile and sticks in the backyard, like climbing trees. We had
Yeah.
a lot of good climbing trees in the yard. We had a big swimming pool. Like, yeah, I grew up like super outdoorsy. Oh, hang on, let me turn that off. Yeah, like super outdoorsy kid lifestyle, very active and very sporty, and like I loved sports and I played almost all of them. Like any sport that was available, I played it. And I was always like good enough that I would like make the team, but I was never the best at anything. The only thing that I was like really good at was long distance running, especially like cross country. And I think that was just because like you didn't have to actually be fast. You just had to be good at like not giving up and pushing when everyone else was like, "Oh, I'm tired," and you just like keep going, and then so you win. I would win like I'd win the school cross country, and then I'd do all right at like the districts and the regionals and stuff, but I never made it. I think maybe once I made it to state level, but like never really did like that good, you know? So I said good but not amazing.
And was
Um
it like, did you want to be better? Like, was it like, oh man, I want to be an athlete? Or you're just like, yeah, whatever, like, I'll just do it.
yeah, so people were always like, because I was like pretty smart at school. It all that stuff came pretty like, I don't know, easy to me. And um so all my teachers were kind of like, what are you going to do with your life? Like, you can do anything you want, which is not very helpful because when you have too many options, like it's impossible to choose. And
Yeah.
but I kind of had like a feeling like I really wanted to be an athlete,
Hmm.
but I wasn't good enough at any sport that like, because I felt so embarrassed to say, oh, I want to be an athlete, because I felt like if I said that out loud, people would be like, at what? Like, you know.
Aw.
Yeah, so I kind of like kept that to myself for a long time, and it wasn't until I found boxing, and even the first few years that I did boxing, it was really just a hobby. Like, I was fighting and I would, you know, win fights. Most of them I won. I lost a few, which were really good lessons, but yeah. So but even that, yeah, it was a hobby when I first started doing it, and it wasn't until I ended my marriage and was like, so we're going to talk about this, I'm sure, later. But my ex and I owned and ran a gym together in Australia. And so that was kind of like, I was tied to that. And I loved it. But when the marriage ended, it was like, okay, like I don't need to do this anymore. I can do anything I want with my life. I can be anywhere I want in the world. So, you know, like what's important to me and what do I want to really have a go at? And I thought, you know what, like, I reckon I could be really good at boxing if I actually try, like, and put all into it, like make it my life and not just like a hobby. And so that I didn't really take boxing seriously till I was like 28, 29. And
Wow, that's very cool.
yeah,
That's very
yeah.
cool. When you were a kid, did you always kind of have that mindset that was like, man, I can do whatever the heck I want to do in this life? Or did you kind of grow into that mindset?
Yes and no. So like
Mhm.
yes, in the sense of like if I got something in my head that I was going to do it, then I was going to do it, and I had full confidence that like that was what was going to happen. For example, like I got kicked out of home when I was 15, And the reason being is for exactly that reason, is because I had a lot of self-belief and my parents didn't really have the same belief in me. So they were sending me to like a private school, paying
Okay.
like, top dollar school fees and stuff like that. And they, exam week had be coming up and they thought I should be at home studying and whatever. But I was like, I know it. Like, I'm good. I'm going to pass, like, not only pass, like, I'm going to get A's on this so easy. Like, I don't need to be sitting at home. So I had a job that I wanted to work all the time because my parents never gave me any money. So that was my only way to freedom, was to work at this job. Plus I had like all my friends there. It was fun. I wanted to have a social life, as every teenager does, which my parents also didn't really like. And then I wanted to play all the sports as well, like the not the in school sports, like the extracurricular sports on the weekends and stuff. So I had a very busy life outside of school, and my parents didn't really like it, especially when the exams were coming up. And we'd always have big arguments about what I should and shouldn't be doing. And I was so like, I got this, like, it's fine. And anyway, one time we had this huge big argument. I can't remember actually what the catalyst was. I think I wanted to like go out with my friends, and my parents are like, you're not going anywhere. And I was like, well, I am. And and they were like, well, if you leave, don't come back. And I was like, okay. So I like packed my school bag full of all my books and all my things that I think I need, and I went and moved into my friend's attic for like a couple weeks before my mom figured out where I was and dragged me back home. So much for kicking me out forever. But
And
anyway, while I was like 15, 16, I was like in out, because that was just the cycle that would constantly happen. Was they would they would say, get out, whatever, and we'd have a big fight, and then they'd be like, oh, where are you, what are you doing, like, come back home. And I'd be like, well, why, like, you just told me that I can't do what I want to do. And they'd be like, okay, well, this term we're going to do it your way, and if you get anything less than straight A's, then that's it, like, it's our way, or whatever. And I'd just be like, okay. But they wouldn't even give me a chance to actually prove myself, because when the exam week would approach, they would start to freak out again. And then so it'd be like the same cycle. I'd end up getting kicked out. And then anyway, it was like at the start of year 12, my final year of school, when I got kicked out, I ended up moving in with a friend of mine's ex-boyfriend and his friends. So they were a few years older. They'd finished school there at university. And it was like a house of 4 boys and me. And I lived in this, they had this room that was so small. It was like, I think it was meant to be a study. It barely fit my single bed in, like, just. And then I could fit a clothes rack also, like, next to the single bed, that I had to climb on the bed to be, like, get to the clothes rack. And that's how small this room was. But they rented it to me for $30 a week, which I could afford on my supermarket worker wage. So it was perfect. So then when my parents were like, come back home, I was like, hell no, like, I'm good. Because every other time I was like sleeping at a friend's parents' house kind of thing. And I
right.
did feel like I was sort of like, they were happy to house me and happy to look after me, but I also felt like, I was a bit of an intrusion, and they would rather not be there, because, they know that my parents would not be happy if they knew, they just,
Mhm.
parents are weird like that. So
Were
they
your
kind of,
parents like, oh sorry, I don't mean to, but were your parents like legitimately mad, like don't come back, or it was just like, like get out here, you're like, okay, whatever,
yeah.
like,
So what would
yeah,
happen is, like, it would be me and my dad that would have the
yeah.
big fight, and he would kick me out. And then it would be my mom that would be like ringing around trying to find out where I was, begging me to come back home and stuff like that. And then
Aw.
when I would eventually come back home, my dad and I wouldn't talk for like a week. And then finally we'd like end up having to make eye contact at some stage and like, and
Like
talk
looking.
it out and figure it out. Yeah. So that was kind of, but yeah, so when I ended up moving into this house and my parents were like, come back home, I was like, hell no, like, I'm good. And so I did almost all of year 12 living in this party house with these boys, and I had so much fun. Like, I had one of the best years ever. And I passed school in like the top 5% of the state. But over the course of the year, even though I wasn't coming back home, I did start talking to my parents again. because my brother and sister still lived at home. So after a few months of not talking, my parents realized like I was not coming back home, and they kind of like lost me. But the only way to have any kind of influence in my life, I guess, was to like half go along with what I was doing. So I would go over there and, you know, hang out, chat, whatever, hang out with my brother and sister and my parents a little bit. And we had like a good enough relationship. And but yeah, I was just like, no, I'm not moving back home. I'm done with being controlled and told what to do and stuff like that. And didn't I just didn't trust them to like, you know, I was in a good situation. I didn't trust them to like try and take that away from me again. So um
Would you say that you're like, are they overly controlling, would you say? Or was your dad overly controlling? Or you just like, just hated anytime anyone put any type of boundaries on you type thing?
I think it was both. I think because I'm the oldest child, I was the experiment. And you know, when you're a little
Mhm.
kid, your parents can literally tell you what to do, because if you don't, then they pay your bills and they don't feed
Right.
you, or they take away your toys, or they don't like they pick you up and physically handle you that you can't do anything. But so I think my parents you know, I was the oldest child, and they'd always been able to use their power as adults to stop, you know, to keep control of me basically. But as I got older and I had my own money and I got a taste of freedom and independence, and I was not giving that up again. It was sort of like they lost their control, and so they were trying to like, control me in other ways by like kicking me out. But when they realized that wasn't working either, I think they were like, oh shit, what do we got now? But
I feel like, and you could probably
yeah, so
verify this. Oh, sorry. What do you mean? But I feel like
no, you can,
Australians, like when I went backpacking for a year, or not for a year, but after I finished my university years, I got backpacking. And every time I went to a hostel, I swear the Australians, hands down, were the hardest partiers and like the funnest time for sure. So
yeah, that's what a lot of people tell me actually. Australians are a good time. Like I think the thing about Australians is we're very social, and like we're friendly. We're friendly and we're
mhm.
laid back, and we like to have a good time. So the combination of those things, like when we're traveling, it's sort of like how like yes to everything, yes to another drink, yes to jump off that roof, yes to yes to
Yeah.
the skinny dipping, whatever, like so,
Yeah, that sounds about right from my experiences. Yeah. I feel like the Australians, the UK, the Brits, and the Canadians, like every time I went, it was always like a group of us and we just loved it. It was so much fun.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
similar culture across all those countries, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So you're in this house, this party house.
yeah, and
And
so I finished out school living in this house, and I like had the best year ever. And then I finished I graduated like top 5% of the state, and I wasn't home when my school results arrived. They arrived to my parents' house. I was like visiting my grandparents in a different state, and my mom rings me. She's like, can I open it? Your school results arrived. I'm like, oh yes, please. And I had her read through the whole thing. I was like, sorry, what was that? Sorry, what did I get? Oh, okay, cool. All right. So just to like rub them a little bit, you know. And then so after that, they were like, do you want to move home to do university? We won't give you problems. You can do whatever you want. Like, you know, you proved yourself. We get it. Like, whatever. And so I did. I moved back home, and because where they lived was close to the university that I was going, so it was a lot more convenient as well. And just that we had built a better relationship while I was not living with them, that I thought, okay, it's going to be okay now, and it was. So I went to university for 3 weeks to do engineering, and it was like 2 weeks in, I was a bit sick. I had a couple days off, and when I went back after that, I felt like I was so far behind that, and I probably could have caught up if I could be bothered, but it was that moment that I was like, I don't even care about this. Like, I don't even want to catch up. What am I doing? Am I going to really spend the next 4 years of my life like studying something that I don't really give a shit about, and like it's just, it was a drain. And I had a few more days to decide. If you quit before a certain date, then you don't have to pay for it. And so I was like, okay, I got a few days to decide. And I was just like, yeah, no, not doing it. Like, maybe I'll go back in the future. I don't know. But for now, like, nah. And so my parents were a bit sad that after all that, I left university. And my dad was like, okay, well, if you're going to quit, like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to travel the world, because he had traveled the world like a lot before, I guess, my parents got married and had kids and whatever. And he would always tell me stories. That was like one of the things we really connected on was, as I was growing up, he would get like a map out or an atlas or something. And remember those things before Google Maps? And he'd put it on the table and he'd like point to different things. Or, we'd see like a travel show on TV or whatever. And he'd be like, oh, I've been there. And he'd tell me stories and show me photos and stuff like that. So I always had this curiosity about the world and wanting to travel since I was really young. And that was all I wanted to do, was just like explore and travel and see what was out there. And I didn't want to just get like stuck at university. So, so yeah, I told him I was going to travel the world, and he was like, obviously devastated that I wasn't going to university, but I think he was kind of like really proud that I wanted to travel.
Aww.
Okay, well, like, how are you going to fund this traveling of the world? And I was like, I'm going to work in bars. And he was like, okay, I was 17 at the time. He's like, all right, well, if you're going to quit university, you should get a job in a bar. Not really thinking that I could. I was like, okay. I had a friend, an older friend who I had lived with at one point when I got kicked out of home, who his girlfriend was working in this like Coyote Ugly style bar, and they were doing auditions that week. And she was like, yeah, come with me. And I was like, okay. So I went and got up on that bar and danced. And I got the job.
No way.
Yeah, that was really fun. And I don't think they didn't realize that I was only 17. I think they just assumed that I was already 18, which is the drinking age in Australia and the age to work in a place like that. And it was 3 weeks before my 18th birthday that we were planning my birthday part, my 18th. Then the managers, I think, overheard, and they were like, wait, how old are you turning? And I was like, oh, 18. They're like, okay, you're going to take a 3-week holiday till after your birthday. So that was kind of where I finished up working there, because as soon as I turned 18, I got a passport and I took off one way to Europe. So, and I stayed over there till I ran out of money. And my parents gave me a really good bit of advice before I went, actually. They said, don't not do anything because it costs too much money. They said, if you need to borrow some money, just call us. You have to pay it back, but call us and we'll lend you a little bit just to like get you by, and then you need to come home. But like, and not like, but like do everything you want to do, because you don't know if you're going to go back, And I was like, okay, cool. So anyway, I literally stayed over till I spent my last dollar, called my parents up and was like, I need money for a plane ticket home. And then,
how long total were you? How long total were you traveling?
I think it was like 2.5 months, maybe 3 months or so. Yeah. Nice. So that was the start of my addiction to traveling and just like living overseas and exploring. And ever since, like, I came back from that holiday, and it was like I would work to travel. I don't think from then I was never in one place for longer than 3 months until sometime a few years ago, being in Miami. I was here for like 4 months at a time one time. And I remember being like, oh my God, I broke my record. But it took like more than 10 years.
Do you ever get like tired of it? Because I just did it for a month and I loved it. It was super fun. But it was like, man, I'm kind of tired of starting over every new place. Did that ever cross your mind, or not really?
I wasn't living overseas every single time. Like, it wasn't like I was moving every 3 months. I had my base on the Gold Coast. I lived in the Gold Coast of Australia. And so that was like my base from when I was 18 to 28. That was where I lived. But every 3 months I would go somewhere, whether it just was like for a week or for a weekend or for 3 weeks or a month or whatever. But I never had like longer than 3 months without going somewhere, kind of thing. And then it was when I was 28, that was when I moved to America. So actually,
Okay.
when I was 21, I moved to Ibiza in Spain. I did a
No
summer.
way.
Yeah, I did a summer in Ibiza, and then I lived in Leeds in England, in the north of England for a bit after. And my plan when I went, actually, I went when I was 20, I was planning on staying for like 4 years. I wanted to do a bunch of summers and winters, but the first summer was really fun. And then I was in Leeds in England, and it was September. And I remember waking up one morning and it being like, I have never been this cold in my entire life. And it's only September. What the fuck? I don't know if I can do this. And so I looked at plane tickets home, and yeah, and because the seasons are opposite, as you know, for
Yeah.
Australia to the Northern Hemisphere. And I thought, okay, I could buy a return ticket. I could be home for the summer and I could just be back for next summer. Why do I need to do a horrible winter in the north of England? And so I went back to Australia, and a few months later, that was actually where I met my ex, who I ended up marrying. And so I never
Okay.
did that. I mean, I went back to Europe, but just for a holiday. I never ended up living again in Europe
Okay.
until like, until I was living in America and we had split. Then I was doing the summers in Greece and then living in Miami.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Your life. Like living vicariously through your story right now. um, but the whole time where Australia was your base, this whole time you were still doing bartending gigs, or how are you kind of sustaining your travel addiction?
Okay, so from when I was 18 to 21, I was working in nightclubs. And then I told you when I moved to Ibiza, I was working in nightclubs. When I was living in Leeds, I started out working in a bar, but it was like cold, and I don't know, it's like just not the same vibe working in a bar there. It's more like you have to actually know how to make cocktails and stuff. I was more like a
Shit.
I was more the kind of bartender that's just like woo behind the bar, like spreading good vibes, and like I could pour 20 drinks at once, but like vodka sodas, bourbon cokes, like the simple ones, But I could pump out volume. I was like a nightclub
Yeah.
bartender, not like not a bar, like a corner bar, which is the vibe in Leeds, really. I mean, they have
Okay.
nightclubs there too, but it's more like you have to know your cocktails. And I
Got it.
did it. And I went for a job in a bar, and they gave me a list of like 100 cocktails, and they're like, okay, memorize these by tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, not gonna happen. I went the next day, and they were like testing me on the cocktails. I got a few right actually, because they were like, some of the more common, simple ones. And then I ended up just having a whipped cream fight with one of the employees, and I got fired on that day.
Oh man.
Yeah. So after that, I worked in another bar doing like promo for their opening night. And while I was doing the promo, all the customers that would come through, because I was just like some promo girl, I don't know, on the floor trying to. I can't even remember what my actual job was. Maybe selling shots or something, or I have no idea. But I was just talking to the people in the bar, and I was like, okay, so what do you do? Do you need a receptionist? Just trying to like get another job while I was doing this job in this bar. And one guy was actually, yeah, you know what? I could do with some help in the office. And I was like, perfect. I'll be there on Monday. Give me a number. And so, yeah, he was paying me like £5 an hour, and a wage that I could like barely live off. And I think he knew that, but I don't think he expected me to actually be like good at my job. So after a few after a few weeks, he would drop, because I would get the bus to work, but he would drop me off on his way home because I was like on his way. And he would stop at the supermarket across the road from my house, and he'd come in with me, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I just need to get a few things. I'd be like, oh, me too. And he'd like pay for my groceries, and
Oh,
on
yeah.
Friday afternoon he'd give me like an extra bonus £100 to go out for the weekend. And he like kind of realized he was paying me like next to nothing. And yeah, so when I came back to Australia, I was working in my old nightclub job again. And I was just drinking and partying and getting really drunk like every single night, even at work, which is fully not allowed in Australia. It you get away with it in Europe, but you can't. It's like America. You can't do that here or there. I mean, I don't think you can do it here. And so it was a few weeks in, and I got fired from that job too, actually, for being really wasted at work. And I, rather than going home and sleeping, I partied for like 3 days straight. And the reason that my boss knew that I was wasted was because I lived with him. So there was no like getting around it. And he was like, I'm sorry to do this because I know we're friends, but like this is a business and a company and it's not okay. And I was just like, okay. And it was at that point that I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm ruining my life. I can't, not even a friend is like gonna keep me in a job if I'm behaving like this. Like, it's not okay. And around that time, I met my ex who, okay, so rewind a little bit. When I came back from Europe, I had a stopover in Taipei. I was there for 24 hours. I was on my own and I was traveling around like being a tourist because I have one day to explore this city. And I was taking selfies. This is back in the film camera, you know, like
like the wind up thing.
Yeah. So I get back to Australia, I develop the film and I see my selfies. I had no neck. Like I'd put on 10 kilograms. And at the time, you know what kilograms are, right?
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't know the conversion, but I know it's heavier than pounds.
Yeah, so I was like a 50 kilogram girl, like skinny, bony, skeletal girl, and put 10 kilograms on that frame, like 20% of my body weight I put on. So it was like 10 kilograms, 22 pounds for, I believe. Yeah, is the conversion. Which is a lot. Yeah. I'm like a skinny little girl. Yeah. On a, what would that be? 110-pound girl to put, 20.
To put another 20 pounds on.
Yeah. Anyway, I put like 10 kilograms on. And I didn't realize because it's good, but not in a way. When I put on weight, I don't like put it on my thighs or put it on my boobs or my stomach or whatever. I put it on evenly over my whole body. So it's just like, I just kind of like expanded everywhere. So when I look in the mirror, I don't really notice, especially if it's gradual. But someone else who might not have seen me in a while might be like, oh, damn, she got a bit big. So when I was looking at the photos and I had like no neck in the photos, like my face was so round and chubby. I was like, oh my God, I need to lose weight. Like I'm getting fat. And so I went on these diet pills because I didn't know anything about like exercise or nutrition or whatever back then. I mean, my mom had always fed me healthy and I'd always been an active kid, but I didn't realize like the importance of it really. I know that seems like it doesn't make sense, but I just didn't realize. I guess I didn't put two and two together like that for weight loss because I'd never had a problem with weight loss ever in my life. And so I went on these diet pills that a few of the girls in the bar were on. And this stuff was like legal speed, basically. Like you sleep 3-4 hours a night. So it was perfect because I could work all night and party. I could sleep for a few hours and then I could enjoy my whole day at the beach or whatever and go to work and have all this energy. And it was great. So I met my ex around that time and he was a personal trainer. He had a little personal training studio. And we were at a party and he was like, oh, do you want a drink? And I was like, oh, no, like I'm trying not to drink too much because I'm taking these tablets and you know it makes you get really drunk really fast. So if you have just like 1 or 2 drinks, it's like having 10. And he was like, oh, okay. And he's asking me about the pills. He's like, okay, so like what exercise are you doing? And I was like, oh no, just like dancing when I go out and stuff. He was like, oh God. He's like, okay. And he explained to me how it works. He's like, okay, the thing is that what it does, it gives you the energy to want to work out, but you don't actually like lose the weight just by taking it. It's like you have to go and exercise. Like now that it's giving you the energy, but it doesn't work just on its own. Like you still have to do the exercise and like not drink 1 million calories and like eat shit. Basically, I was like eating sausage rolls and Vegemite toast. That was my diet.
Oh
So
dear.
bad.
I don't get how you're so skinny. Well, I guess now I understand, but I was just thinking, man,
Now
I'd
I'm
love to see a fat Avril. Like I would just love it.
I need to find a photo. I had a little
Oh,
chubby stage. But
oh, that's so
anyway,
fun.
so he was like, I was like, oh, okay. He was like, okay, if you want, come to the gym on Monday and I'll just like show you a few things that you can do and some resistance exercise. It was the first time I'd ever done like lunges and planks and like, all these like basic exercises. He just like showed me some basic body weight exercises and how to use a few of the machines and stuff. And I was just like, oh, okay. And so he's like, anytime you want, come to the studio and you can just like, work out a little bit. And I was like, okay. And so I just became obsessed with trying to learn about this nutrition and health and exercise and weights and how it all worked in the human body. And I was so intrigued and I was seeing my body get results as well. So then I became more interested about like, okay, why and how. Um, and anyway, we started dating. We had been dating around this time. And so the more healthy I was getting and the more I was like getting fit and skinnier and whatever, the more I was just like repulsed by alcohol.
Hmm.
And I didn't want to be in that environment anymore. And so when
Pause.
I
Quick.
got,
Sorry,
sorry.
I don't mean to cut you off. A quick question. Like, why during the like when you're drinking all the time, why would you get drunk all the time? Like, what was kind of going through your
Because
mind?
it was fun.
You just want to
It
have a
was
good time.
fun. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just like I was being wild and 21 years old. And I don't know, it's just the environment that I was in. Everyone would get wasted and we'd do stupid things and we'd laugh at each other. And, it gives you like a
Yeah.
confidence to, I don't know, misbehave, say cheeky things that is funny that you might not say otherwise. And it was just like a good laugh. I didn't have any like mental problems or anything. I was fine. And I didn't feel like by not drinking alcohol, I was less confident actually. And that was a surprise to me because I had thought maybe I would like really miss it. So when I decided to okay, here's the timeline. I got fired from my job. I started working in another job, like selling tickets to go on like bar crawls. And I realized I was like terrible at sales. Like I sucked, but I could still make decent money because it was just like a really lucrative job. But that job was kind of like requiring me to be in the club still. Um, and then I actually got a job back with the company I got fired from, but like running some of their events, and the pay was like kind of shitty, but I had to go into the club a couple of nights a week just to be there. And I was like, ugh, late nights, being in this environment, drinking, like, and so around that time, that was when I had started going to the gym. And so that was when alcohol was like really turning me off. And I made a decision. I was just like, you know what? Like, I just don't want to drink at all anymore. Like, I just want to give up. And I stopped drinking completely for about 6 months.
Oh wow.
And it was never my intention to give it up forever. I was just like feeling so good that I just didn't want any part of it. And I realized that I can like, I mean, I wasn't even, it's not, I realized that I could go out and have fun if I wanted to without drinking, but I didn't even want to go out. I wanted to go to bed early. I wanted to like watch TV on the couch instead. I wanted to like just train and eat healthy and be fit. And I was learning a lot as well about
Mm.
nutrition and exercise. And I was really fatigued at night from, all the exercise I was doing and just my brain ticking because I was learning.
I feel
And
like you're a very extreme person. Like we got all or nothing. Like it's not like oh, I'll
yeah,
have one drink. It's like no, not drinking.
yeah,
That's funny.
yeah, all in. And so I was going to work with my ex all the time just to like learn. And he said to me, he was like, okay, like, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, like, I really want to do what you're doing. I love the lifestyle. I love that you sort of work in the morning and then in the evening you have the middle of the day free. I love that it's all like, it's like hanging out with your friends all day. People come to see you, you chit chat with them while you put them through their exercise program. You make them feel good about themselves. They feel good about themselves. They're getting fitter. Like, it's like, this job's amazing. I want to do that. And he was like, okay. So I was doing like a lot of his admin stuff and accounting and whatever. And he was teaching me how to be a personal trainer. He'd let me train some of his clients, and he'd sort of like shadow me and like give me advice on what I was doing wrong and right and stuff like that. And after a few months, I felt confident to like have my own clients. And the thing was, when I first started personal training, I didn't, all my friends and like network were people my age who can't afford personal training, but they could afford group training, and they saw the transformation and the changes in my body and what I was doing, and they wanted to get fit and look really good and feel good as well. So I started doing a lot of group training sessions that over the years just like grew and grew and became really popular. And that was kind of the reason we went from like a little personal training studio into a bigger one, into a bigger one, into like a huge gym. And yeah, it was really exciting. So over those years that we were together, we grew this gym into like this huge big thing. So
And it turned into like a partnership. It was like your gym as well, as both of your guys together as you grew.
Yeah, it was a partnership.
Super cool.
I mean, that was kind of like the thing when we split. It was pretty much everything in his name, but it was like, you know, like I put my money in, we both worked for the cause sort of, and we were married. We got married after like 2 years. So for pretty much the whole time, we were together for 7. So
Wow.
So it was like everything was just, you know, in a pool sort of thing.
When did you start going to the gym? That was 25, you said, or when did you start?
I started 21. Going to the gym when I was 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had done Muay Thai when I was like 16 for a little bit, for a few months, and the club that I was going to closed down, but I was in love with this sport. And then it was around when I was maybe like 22, 23-ish. We found a friend of ours was doing Muay Thai with this coach. And so he would come to our gym and train like 4 of us, like one in our lunch break. And so that was when I got into Muay Thai again. But for me, Muay Thai was just like fitness. I loved it. I would go to Thailand all the time to train. It was like a little addiction for me. But I never had any interest in fighting, because for me, Muay Thai is like 2 people stand in front of each other and just like hit and kick the shit out of each other. And whoever's tougher and can take more punishment is probably going to win the fight. I mean, there is like some skill involved as well, of course, but after a few months of doing, or a few years actually of doing Muay Thai, just, you know, that training, I broke my foot in training one day. And yeah, but it was like my big toe and like where the toe connects to the foot sort of thing. So I could hobble around the outside of my foot. I just couldn't throw kicks and knees because I couldn't put the foot back on the ground. And so that was how I got into boxing, because it was all I could do. I couldn't run, couldn't jump, like nothing else. And so, yeah, I started boxing, and the coach I had at the time, he started teaching me more than just like hitting the mitts and throwing combos. He was like, okay, if I throw this, you move your head here, here's your defenses, here's what you got. And so then I was like, oh, defense. Okay. Like someone threw punches at me. I need to see how this works. And so I just wanted to fight just to test myself. And I had my first fight, and I was just addicted. It was like the best adrenaline rush. And rewind, something I missed out on talking about was I used to do these like modeling pageants.
No way.
Yeah. So when I first started working in the nightclubs, I was like 18 years old, and I was working in the bar one night, and they were doing like a little modeling pageant in the bar. And so every week they'd have a heat, and then after 4 or 5 weeks or whatever, they'd have the finals. If you got through to the finals, you get $200. And if you came first in the final, you got $2,000. Second was $1,000, and third was like $500. So anyway, one night I'm working in the bar. They didn't have enough girls in one of the heats, and so they were like going to the bar girls, who wants to go in it? Like, we'll leave you on the clock, you know, you still get paid, whatever. And then, you know, if you go through, then you can have the night off to compete in the final. And I was like, sure, I'll do it, whatever. Like, it was whatever. I went in, I ended up coming second in this thing, and I was like, hell yes, sign me up for every single one, let's go. So I started doing them in like all the nightclubs, because all the nightclubs in town had like their different ones. And it was just like this cycle. And so I wasn't always winning them at first because, you know, I was like, had this little, I was very skinny and I was like, you know, kind of cute, whatever. But I had this little like drinking belly from alcohol. So I was like, sometimes I'd do well, sometimes I wouldn't, but whatever. It was a bit of fun. I'd always make like at least a few $100 and whatever. It was a good time. And
Your life is like have you ever seen on Instagram like the yes people or something that just say yes to everything that pops up in their life? I literally feel like that's your life. You're like the living experiment of saying yes.
yeah, but that's kind of my
Yeah.
attitude. Like, if it sounds
Yeah.
fun, try it. Fuck it. Why not? Like, let's see what happens. If I don't like it, I just don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But at least, yeah, like I had to go. And so, okay, so that was how I got into
Yeah.
like doing these little pageants. And then when I started getting fit, and I was telling you that like the girls that I know, they were all like, oh, like how are you getting fit? Whatever. That I started winning everything because now I was like cute, but I had a better body than anybody because I was like really fit, you know. And so yeah, I started winning everything, whatever. And I was like competing internationally at like the overseas ones as well. Because if you win like the local ones, you go to the national final, and then if you win the national final, you go to the world finals and all this stuff. And it was becoming like I still love doing the pageant thing. It was really fun and a bit of an adrenaline rush. But when I started boxing, it was like, whoa, this is even better. It's like the same thing, like where you're on stage and you have to perform and like think and put on a show and whatever. But it's like you've got someone coming at you and directly competing with you and trying to kill you at the same time. So it was like, yeah, even better. And boxing, you can just like never stop learning from it. I feel like pageants are like, even though you can do your best and there's little things you can do to kind of give yourself an advantage and stuff like that, at the end of the day it's subjective. It's
Right.
the judges might like the look of another girl better than you and whatever, so now you don't win. But with boxing, I mean, I guess boxing is subjective in a way too. They could like the style of another girl better than the way you fought, and I definitely lost a few fights, I think, based on that, where I fully thought I won, but apparently I didn't. But yeah, I mean, that's what it is. But boxing is a little more yeah, if you land more punches or you knock the girl out, you're gonna win. So
Yeah. Hard to
in
argue if
pageants,
your opponent's flat on their back there.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you knock him out, there's no questions.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was kind of like what I'm very competitive, and that was kind of like what really drove me into boxing.
Your
Um,
first boxing match, were you like scared at all? I feel like you just didn't give two shits.
I was very nervous. Like I
Okay.
was excited, but I was
Okay.
super, super nervous. And it wasn't nervous about like being hit or anything like that. It was more nervous about like, am I going to remember everything I've learned and put on a good performance? I just wanted so badly to win. But I so badly wanted to win like nicely, like I wanted to like, I don't know, you see boxing, other box, because it was a whole day of boxing. And so you see some real talent in the other fights. And you look at these people and you're like, damn, like, I hope I look like that. I hope I look as good as they do. Like, clean technique and just like really good. I definitely did not look like that. I probably look like an absolute brawler, but I did win the
Oh.
fight. I remember it was like halfway through the third round before all of a sudden my brain came back to me and I was like, okay, like, what do I know? What have I actually like been taught? How can I, what do I need to do here? The whole thing was just, I don't know, I was running on adrenaline. I have no memory of anything that happened. It was just like a scrap. So, and that was my first few fights were like that.
Oh, that's super, super cool. And then you've been,
Yeah.
and so, but that at that time it was still a hobby, or that time your first fight you were like professional, or your first fight it was still kind of a hobby thing for you?
Yeah, no, it was a hobby. So I had
Oh,
11 fights in Australia.
okay.
And that entirely was like completely a hobby. And then when I moved to America, I moved because I wanted to like give boxing a proper go. So when I moved, I was still amateur. I ended up having 20 fights altogether. So I had like 9 of them in America. And but even though as an amateur, like I was was taking it seriously, because the reason I moved here was I recognized, so I told you that I was doing these pageants, and a lot of the national finals were in America or maybe in Mexico, but I was with a lot of Americans. And especially when I compete in Vegas, I started to get to know a few of the media people that would come to the pageants, and they got to know me and that I was a boxer. So one of the pageants, I one of the guys was like, "Oh, you're going to go to some of the boxing gyms here." I was like, "Oh, I'd love to, but the thing is, like, unless you know somebody to get you in, it's impossible because they're so like closed. It's not like someone from the public can just like walk in. And he was like, "Oh, well, I know a few people I can like line you up with." And I was like, "Oh my god, yes!" So I went to some of these gyms, and just like being around the boxing in Vegas and stuff, I met a lot of people, and I started to realize that America is really the center of the universe for boxing. UK is, you can do really well in the UK as well, but America is really like where it's at for, I think, probably for most sports, but especially with boxing. And I realized that there's nothing going on in Australia. Even the best male boxers in Australia, male boxers, have other jobs. Like, it's not a viable career to just be a boxer. And in my opinion, like, how are you ever going to be the best at your sport if you have to have another job and you can't like just put everything into it? You can't like after training go and rest. You have to like go to a job. And
Yeah.
I think, we have had a very small amount, maybe a couple of Australian guys that have got right to the top. But most Australians, they will fall short. They'll get their world title shot and then they fall short. And I think part of that is to do with what I said, and another part of it is to do with, because we're so far away from the rest of the world, you have a small boxing community in Australia, and so your sparring partners are very limited, and the style of the sparring you get is also very limited. Whereas here in America, you have the best of Europe, the best of America, the best of South America, the best of so many countries, and so many different styles are here. And so you can see almost any different style in sparring on a regular training day, that you can practice with. And so when you get in the fight, it's like there's not too many surprises. It's like, okay, I've been in this situation before. I've sparred a style of fighter like this before. Whereas Australia, we don't necessarily get those same that same exposure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I realized basically that if I wanted to take boxing seriously and I wanted to like go far with it, I really needed to be in America. And the sooner I could get there, the better, because it like, even
Yeah.
though I was planning on staying amateur for a little while, like just by fighting here as an amateur, you meet so many people in boxing, and boxing is a lot who like of course it's what as well, like you have to be talented, but you have there are super super high level, extremely talented guys that I know that nobody knows, and they don't get any opportunities because they don't sell tickets and they don't have a huge fan club. So that's a side of boxing that a lot of people might not know about.
So
It's a popularity.
you're in boxing, like you're responsible, like, to some degree, you're responsible for selling your own tickets, kind of thing, and creating
Oh
that fan
yeah,
base.
100%. Yeah, boxing is a popularity contest, which is kind of
Mhm.
sad, but for me it's worked out great because I had the popularity from modeling and the other things that I was doing. So it was sort of like, okay, whatever, like I'm not going to complain, I'm just going to like take advantage. And I recognized this early, and so I've like made sure I capitalized on it. And it was interesting when I moved here, actually. Like, so I was working as a model because boxing wasn't like
Yeah.
paying my bills. So I was working as a model, but I was like I was here to box, kind of.
Right.
And I booked a lot of modeling jobs because of boxing. And
Really?
yeah, a lot. There were like some examples. I got a call one day. What's his name? I was filming a film clip for Don Omar, and the Latin singer.
Hmm.
Yeah, so he was filming a film clip that the theme of the film clip was about a girl that was a boxer. And the girl that was the main character in the film clip, amazing dancer, like phenomenal. And they'd given her a boxing lesson a couple days before the fight thinking that she'd just be able to pick it up and do it. And they realized like, oh, she doesn't really look that good as a boxer. And so they called me up. One of the casting director, he knew from just me going to castings that I was a boxer because we'd chatted before. And he was like, I know a girl. And so he called me up and I was her body double for all the boxing scenes. So they'd film me boxing like from behind. We had like similar shaped body and stuff. Yeah. The song was, how do you say I want you for me in Spanish?
Yo quiero tú para mí, I think.
Something like that. That's the name of the song. Yeah. Anyway, and so all the boxing scenes, that's actually me. So like, yeah, that was one. Another one was like this company was making, like, they had an app where it was going to help businesses to not have warehousing costs, was like a feature of the business or whatever. And so to demonstrate the no more warehousing costs, they were throwing boxes at me and I had to punch these boxes in the air. But they wanted someone who looked like they could punch for real. So like so many random things that was nothing to do with like apparel or boxing gear or anything, but it was like because I was a boxer I got these jobs and the casting directors knew who I was. And stuff like that.
Just straight your bubbly personality? Like, how do you have all these connections? Or was it through social media? Like, where did most of these things come through?
Some from social media, but also like just, when I moved here and I started, I had an agency here at the start. And so this agency would send me to like every single casting. And then while I'm at the castings, they ask you things about yourself, like, okay, your name, age, turn around, show your front, your side, whatever, talk about yourself and tell us about your hobbies. Just because they want to see you talk on camera and they want to see your personality. They're like, well, this morning I have boxing training and I have a fight next week. And they'd be like, whoa, what? And then I'd like just have a conversation with the casting directors and, like they knew who I was and what I did and stuff like that. So then if a boxing job came in on their table, sometimes they wouldn't even audition for it. They're just like, we have the girl, we know her. So that's
cool. So cool. You created your own little niche like within modeling. That's really cool. Yeah. And then so you decided that you wanted to pursue it professionally. How, and then you knew that, like, what is the way? So you have to sell your own tickets or whatever to monetize it.
Yeah. So I wanted to use the amateurs, like amateur boxing, as a like basically training tool. Because so remember I told you when I first started fighting, it was like I was just so overcome by adrenaline that you're not thinking, you're just kind of reacting. I was always like that, but I would usually snap into the fight like somewhere halfway through the first round. But that first like minute or two of the first round, I was just like, hey, what's going on? Like, and so I was like, okay, until I have at least like 5 fights in a row where I can go from the very first bell to the very end of the fight, be like calm, calculated thinking, reacting, and relaxed, that's when I'll know I'm ready to turn pro. I just didn't want to turn pro and be like not gotten over that yet. So I had 20 fights, and after I had 20 fights, a bunch of the guys from the gym that I trained at were training on this pro fight card, and there was an opportunity for me to get on. They had a couple of spots to fill, and my coach said to me, he's like, hey, like, are you ever going to turn pro? Like, you could fight on this card with all the guys, they're going and fighting. And I was just like, okay, like, I guess, yeah, fuck it. Like, this is the goal. I feel ready. And there was an opportunity. And so I just felt like, it must be the time. All the signs are pointing in the right direction. And that fight was in Dominican Republic in a place that looked like a jail. And oh my God, so it was so funny. I didn't know that apparently in Dominican Republic, and maybe it is in America too, but it's essential to have breast protectors. And so I've turned up and I didn't have breast protectors, and I get in the ring and the ref says to me, do you have breast protectors in? And I was like, no. Stupid me, I should have just said yes. Like, you always just say yes. And what are they going to do? Like, feel it and check? Like, no, they're not. So just say yes. And he was like, oh, well, I'm sorry, but you can't fight. Like, you need to get some. And I was like, what the fuck? I don't have some. Like, I'm in the ring ready to fight. Like, where they've called everyone. Like, we've entered the ring. We're about to, like, the bell's about to go off and the ref's telling me that I can't fight. A girl from the crowd, she pulled her inserts out of her like sports bra or whatever and gave them to me. And my coach had to like put them in my top. He's like, but these are like spongy inserts, like from a sports bra. Like, what are they going to do? But it was more just like, I had to have something. They had to like appear like they were following the rules, you know? And I was just like, oh my God, this is such a joke. Apparently they were going to protect my boobs. So anyway, but yeah, I got to fight, thank God. But I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I came all the way to Dominican Republic. Like, I'm fired up and ready to go for my first fight, and it's going to be taken away from me before he starts. Like, fuck off. And then that girl in the crowd, that was hilarious. I'll never forget that.
Did you win it? Did you beat the chick?
Oh yeah. Yeah. My first two fights were both in Dominican Republic, and I was really pissed. So my first fight, this girl, she came out, she looked the part, but she came out and just like barely threw a punch and was just kind of like covering and backing away and like sort of randomly swinging a punch out every now and again. She was so bad, like so bad. I didn't know who I was fighting or what I was getting into. They just told me like, yeah, they've got an opponent for you. It's fine. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I had no idea. I found out later she had 0 wins and 17 losses. This girl is literally just a paycheck collector. She's probably never had a boxing lesson in her life. She just gets in the ring, puts some gloves on. Yeah, like it was a joke. And I was so pissed off because so we went the first round and she just kind of like ran away from me the whole time and like covered up and ran away and whatever. And then in the second round, she just quit on the stool. Like, she didn't come out for the second round. So I won. But for 24 hours after the fight, I couldn't be happy. I was so upset. I was just like, what the fuck was that? Like, that was bullshit. Because when you fight in the amateurs, it's like people are there to win. Like, it's actually a hard fight. And I didn't even realize that goes on in the pros. Like, there's fights where people will literally just turn up to collect a paycheck. They don't even want to win. They don't give a shit. And so after that, anyway, eventually after 24 hours, like, okay, whatever. Like, I turned pro officially now. So like, whatever. I've got my first win. Like, even though it was a stupid win, like, fuck it, whatever. Like, job done. Let's move on to the next. And I said to my coach, like, I don't ever want to fight like that ever again. Like, that was ridiculous. And so a few months later, there was another opportunity for me to fight again in the Dominican Republic. And I said to my coach, I was like, okay, but like, is this going to be a legit fight or like what, you know, because I don't want to fight another fight like last time. That was just stupid. And he was like, yeah, like, this girl should at least give you 4 rounds. She's good. Like, there was another girl that I had been sparring a few times that had turned pro, and she had fought this girl, and she was like, yeah, they went 4 rounds. Like, she's good, you know, whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. So obviously I'm like really nervous and, you know, like, okay, I've got like a good opponent, like I've got to perform, you know. And I get there, this girl was like 160 pounds. Like, I don't know what they did to the scales at the weigh-ins to make her whatever the weight was that we weighed in at. Like, this girl was so big. I knocked her out in like 58 seconds. I was like, what the fuck? Again, like, similar story. I think this girl had like 3 wins and also a stupid amount of losses as well. And I was just like, okay, I'm done with the Dominican Republic. That was fucked up. Like, I think for the boys, they have good competition fighting in the Dominican Republic. But for the girls, like, I'm sure there must be good Dominican Republic female fighters out there, but I don't know, like, these, I don't know where they found these girls from, but it was like such a bad experience. I was just like, okay, whatever. Like, I got another win, whoop-de-doo, but like, this is not the type of fights I want to be having. That's ridiculous. So
Well, you're
Um,
probably because how long is your training? Like up to a fight? What's your training period or whatever?
oh,
Like I know you're training all the
like
time, but
at least 2 months. Yeah. Well, I'm training all year round, but like for at least 2 months before, or at least 5 weeks before a fight, I'm like fully dialed in, fully focused. I'm making sacrifices. I'm not going out. I'm not like, I'm eating like really good for at least 5 weeks before the fight. So then
Mhm.
to turn up and that's what you get, you're like, why did I bother? Like, what the fuck? And
Yeah.
so yeah, after that, I was like, I'm done with the Dominican Republic. Like, no more of that bullshit. And a few months later, I signed with MTK, which is like one of the biggest boxing management companies, or the biggest boxing management company in the world. And they're based in Dubai or the UK, but most of their fighters are in the UK. I think their head office is actually in Dubai, though. But anyway, and so since after that second fight, I've been with them, and that's been amazing because they've got me like good fights. My third fight, I told them about my starting out experience, and I was like, I want like a challenge for my next fight. Like, I want like a really good girl. So I fought a girl. She had like 5 wins, 5 losses, and like 1 draw, I think. But her 5 losses were all to girls that either went on to be world champions or like at least number one, like super high level losses.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, like this is gonna be a really good fight. I'm excited for it. I thought I won that fight. It ended up being a draw. That's what my 1 draw is. But damn, it was a good fight. And I was so happy. That was the one. Have you seen my black eye video?
Yeah, someone
Yeah,
had showed
that
me on
was
the
that
beach.
part. She headbutted me like 7 times in the fight. It was accidental. Like, it was like her style. She would come in with her head
Uh-huh.
down, and 'cause she was shorter than me, she'd be throwing punches and she'd put her head up. And so she'd smack her head into the top of mine, and I ended up with like a really big egg on my head, which for
Yeah,
the end
same.
of the fight, my head was like out here. And I feel like that was why maybe I didn't win the fight, was because maybe a couple of the judges.
Okay.
So one judge gave it to me, one judge gave it to her, and the other judge called it a draw. And I feel like maybe I lost rounds based on my appearance. Like,
We got hit in the head like 24/7.
right. Well, they were probably thinking her because
Yeah.
the headbutts were not being called. The ref was not doing anything about them. They
Okay.
were not being acknowledged, like nothing like that. So I think they probably thought that her punches were more powerful than what they were. But it was from bit like you
Yeah.
you don't look like that from punches. I'm sorry, but no, like I was getting smacked in the head with like concrete. So yeah, so that was brutal. But
Quick question. What is like the ranking system? Like what are you looking at as a judge?
Uh, you the so this is another thing where I said boxing is kind of subjective. You're looking at which fighter is more dominant,
Okay.
and dominant, like if you're throwing more punches, that obviously looks more dominant. If
Hmm.
you're controlling the fight, so if you're like going forward and pressing the action and backing the other person up, you are probably being more dominant. But if you're being backed up, but as you're being backed up, you're like punching and you're making their punches miss, then
Hmm.
you're controlling the fight and you're the one being dominant, even though you're going backwards. So it is possible to still be the dominant one, even if you're moving backwards.
What if
And
you
that's like,
like, oh, sorry, go for it.
I was going to say, that's like a Floyd Mayweather style. He's usually more going backwards, but he's not getting hit and he's countering and landing his shots and then he's making them miss. So that's kind of
Okay.
like a dominant backwards style. Um, and then just like volume of punches, like whoever's landing more will typically win. Um, but like landing, not necessarily just throwing and hitting the gloves. But
I
that's where
see.
it can get confusing, is because you have a different judge on a different side of the ring. So from
Hmm.
different angles, the fight can look a little different too. And so that's why you
Interesting.
get discrepancies between judges, because one judge might see that you clearly won the round, whereas from a different angle, the judge might not realize that even that your opponent was throwing a lot of punches, but they were landing on the gloves or they weren't actually landing on your face or
Hmm.
your body or whatever. And so to that judge, it looks like this person scored a lot of punches.
Right.
So yeah.
What if you would be like dominating the whole entire match and then at the end of the match someone like knocks knocks the other person out. But really, they've like really done nothing the whole match, but just got a lucky knockout for some reason. Like it
Then
was still go to the person that knocked out.
the person who knocks them out wins.
But,
If you knock someone out, that's it. Fight over, you win. But it doesn't matter what happened. Like, yeah, if the fight ends in knockout, it doesn't matter what happened before knockout. As long as everything was legal, then then the person that knocks them out wins. Yeah.
Okay.
So the other thing that can happen is like if someone in the fight sustains a really bad injury. So they say that you're either a cutter or a sweller. I'm definitely a sweller, as you saw with my head. But some people cut really easily, like their skin. Like, so if they copped a headbutt, they would get a cut and they would bleed. And the benefits of being a sweller is that you don't deal with the cuts, because if you cut and you bleed a lot, like in your eyes, the ref or the doctor can stop the fight on a technical but it's not that the person who cut you wins, it's just that the fight was stopped, and then they look at the judges' scorecards at that point to see who had won more rounds at that point. So like
I see.
Just because you're the one that has the cut and the reason they ended the fight, you could still win if you had won most of the rounds up to that point, or you could lose if you had not won most of the rounds up to your point without finishing the fight, kind of thing. So that's another reason that the fight might be stopped early.
That's crazy. Was that your worst injury that you've had to date from boxing?
For sure. Yeah. What else have I had? I've had I broke my ankle last year, but that was from jiu-jitsu. Another time I was sparring, and this was a lesson to me. I was sparring outside the ring because this girl and she got there a little bit late to spar. And once the boys start sparring, then we lost our opportunity. We have to wait for like 2 hours because they just go like in, out, sort of one stays in, the next one comes in. It's not like there's a gap where we can come in and just start our sparring. So she got there a little bit late. The boys had already started sparring, and I was like, I don't have 2 hours to wait. If you want, we can just like move around on the floor, like not in the ring. And she's like, yeah, okay, cool, that's fine. And so we were moving around, just kind of like doing soft sparring. And I'm always kind of like looking over my shoulder to make sure I'm not going to trip over a weight on the floor or a person, or like just, and I don't know, a bench, like something on the floor. You're always kind of like half looking behind you to see what's there as you move around. And she threw a punch, she threw a hook, and rather than like just catching it or rolling under it, I moved backwards, but I like hesitated just that split second. And so as I went backwards, she clipped the bridge of my nose, and instantly blood just went everywhere. And I was like, oh, fuck, because I had a fight like I think 3 weeks later or something. I had to cancel the fight because I got the x-ray. My nose wasn't broken on the x-ray. But that doesn't mean to say they could have been like a tiny little stress fracture, or probably what it was just like a deep bone bruise. And that was, a bruise is like blood internally, and it just came out. But either way, I was like, I'm not going into a fight where my opponent immediately has an advantage, where she just punches me in the nose and blood pisses out everywhere, and then I lose because it looks like she broke my nose in the fight, but it was already fucked, So that was a pretty shitty injury, because it was like, it was fucked, but I still couldn't. I mean, it was like fine, but like I still couldn't do anything. But when you get the head.
Sorry, when you get punched in the ring, when you're boxing, does it like, do you feel it at all, or you have so much adrenaline that you just don't even feel it?
You feel it, but it's not. You're not like ouch, like you're more like fuck, like she got me. I need to not let that happen. Or every now and again it might be like, fuck, I saw stars, like come on, stay composed. It's not like pain. You feel it, but not in a painful way. Like the next day you'll feel like in a painful way. But it's more like a alert, like shit, I got hit, like be more careful, or
And the fight with that chick, was that your hardest fight to date, or what was your hardest fight that you've had?
I mean, she was my hardest fight for the level that I was at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I've fought girls since then that are better than like my last opponent, my last fight. She was really good, but I'm also much better now too. So
Okay.
like, yeah. So, but as far as like, yeah, for the level I was at, I think that third fight was probably, yeah, probably my hardest. My last one was pretty hard. Like you saw it. That last
It
girl
was,
was tough. She
yeah.
was really good. Yeah.
Well, she was so short, like compared to you. Like we're like, damn, I don't know how April's gonna do this. Like,
Yeah,
but it
she
was
was
fun.
so short, but the
Yeah.
way she was using her shortness,
Uh-huh.
I hadn't encountered that before. I hadn't seen that or experienced that before. She was like
Yeah.
getting down to my knees. Like I couldn't even get down there to touch her. And then she would
No.
come up from there with punches. And so it was hard for me to kind of like manage that. I mean, I obviously did okay. I like caught her
Yeah.
before she went down and stuff like that, but and just like used my movement in the end. But that was a challenge for me just because it was like something I'd never experienced before and I never seen
Mhm.
before. I never even sparred anyone that fought like that. So that was cool to have that experience.
And are you always sparring in the 120 weight class, or do you change which weight class that you spar in?
I mean, I
Or
spar,
fighting?
yeah,
Sorry, fighting. That's what I meant. Professional
yeah,
fight.
I
Yeah.
spar all different weights, but
Uh-huh.
fighting there actually no 120 weight class. The weight class is 118, which is what my weight class is. But my
Okay.
last few fights I've been fighting at 120 just because why not? Why kill myself for those extra 2 pounds? I mean, not kill
Right.
myself. Like I can make 118 fine, but it's like it's not fun. It's not comfortable. So if my
Yeah.
opponent agrees to just go to 120, like I don't know. I think that like it's not a title, so it doesn't
Hmm.
matter. You can have an agreed weight if it's not a title.
Right.
And most of my opponents have obviously had the same opinion because they've been happy to go to 120. Actually,
Nice.
my fight coming up next week, that one's going to be at 122, which I
Okay.
only asked for 120, but they said that I could have 122 because I said, can I have 120? Because this is my first time traveling so long for a fight that I don't know
Okay.
how my body's going to respond with like holding water, adjusting to the jet lag, the change of time zone, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I just want to like give myself an extra little bit of leeway and not have that little extra bit of pressure. And because I guess because they were like, oh, okay, we'll fight at 122 then. I was like, okay, well, does my opponent agree to that? They were like, well, yeah, she's going to travel too. So I guess she'll be in the same
Oh.
boat. I was like, all right, cool, that works.
And
So
who's your
yeah,
opponent this time? Where is she from?
she's from uh, Z, starts with a Z in Africa.
Like
I'll think of it.
Zimbabwe or?
No,
Uh-huh.
I'll think of it.
Our geography is getting tested right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Shit, what's it called? Or maybe it starts with an N.
Uh,
Uh,
Nigeria?
it'll come to me. I'll remember it randomly in
Okay.
like 30 minutes. Yeah. Her name's Jessica Mfanga. I don't know. I
Okay.
think I'm saying that right. Yeah. She's she's undefeated. She's had
Ooh.
yeah, this will be her fourth fight.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, should be a good fight. Her originally I was actually supposed to fight an Indian girl,
Hmm.
um, who'd had like 5 or 6 fights, I think, a little closer to my experience level. But last week they sent me a bunch of backup opponents because they were concerned that the restrictions, like COVID restrictions for
Hmm.
people from India entering to the UAE was like, I don't know, it was like different to other people. And they were concerned she might have trouble entering. And so they were like, okay, we've got these other backup opponents for you. Who do you like? And I was like, whoever. Like, and I picked this girl because her style was very similar to the Indian girl. So I was like, that's what I'm training for. So let's stick with her. And then a few days later, they were like, well, actually, we're just going to give you her because we know she's going to get into the country, whereas the Indian girl, we're not sure. So it's just
Right.
better to have a sure opponent. So yeah,
Okay.
so that was
Cool.
how that happened. Yeah.
And you've been watching obviously video on this chick and stuff, and so you know, like, do you have your game plan going in and stuff already?
Yeah, yeah. So like last night I was doing bike sprints while watching her fights. I was like, yeah.
Uh,
I was supposed to do like six 2-minute sprints because that's like my fight rounds is
uh-huh.
6 2 minutes. And I watched two of her fights, which were both 4 rounds each. So on the second fight. He had like 2 rounds to go. I was like, fuck it. She's still going. I'm still going. Let's go. And so I did that.
Okay.
But yeah,
cool.
I like to, because the thing is, like, when you're fatigued, what goes is your brain. You know, it's hard to think when you're really fatigued. So I like to put myself in a situation where I'm really fatigued and then be watching something like that. So I'm watching my opponent and I'm thinking, if I was fighting her right now, what would I be doing? What's my game plan? And planning through the fight with what I see her doing, sort of thing, while I'm under fatigue. So it's like, if I can do it now, I can do it in the fight. Yeah.
Yeah. And your mentality, was your mentality always like that? Like since the day you kind of left your parents' house type thing? Like you're just, or has there ever been a moment in your life where you like given up on something?
I've given up on things when I just decided that it wasn't fun for me anymore, or it was like I liked something else better, or I just wanted to go in a different direction. Yeah, like I'm trying to think of something specifically. I mean, even, for example, modeling, right? Like I still model sometimes, but I got to a point where I was making good money off social media. And it's like, in social media, I can be me. And, I'm in a fortunate position now where I'm not promoting products that I don't give a shit about just to make a dollar. Like I have enough companies that want to work with me that I'm able to be very selective, and and they pay me really nice money, that I'm able to be like, okay, yes to that product, no to that product, and not just have to say yes to everything. Whereas with modeling, you can say no to jobs if you want to, but it's kind of like you're just a face. You're not a person with a personality, and it's not you selling, it's just your face and your body that's like there for the company to sell their product, kind of thing. And you turn up for a 8-hour day on their schedule or multiple days to make X amount of dollars. Whereas with social media, it's like you kind of I'm it's kind of more work, in the sense of like I have to be the creative director, the film director, the producer, the everything to create this content. But it's like, it's my personality, it's me, I get to share it in a way that like I like, and I feel good about it, because it's like I'm promoting products that I like and I would like to share, rather than just like some product that I would probably never use, but I'm like here using it because I'm getting paid. Like,
Yeah, what's the one you always put on your leg? I always see the one you put on your leg on your stories all the time.
Oh, that sounds magical. I love it. CBD. Yeah. So
Nice.
good. But
Nice.
but yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't say that I like gave up modeling, but I stopped going to castings. Now I only book jobs that if it suits me and I feel like it, and it's like, everything fits, I'm not sort of like chasing it. So I guess you could kind of say that I gave up on modeling a little bit. I mean, it's New York Fashion Week right now and I'm not there, so like, because whatever,
Yeah.
I don't care. You gotta fight.
And for social media, like, are you the one, you're in charge of making your contracts too, or do you have like someone that you work with that does it? Like, how do you price it? Is, I guess, my question is, how would you price your sponsorship
I
deals?
do have a like a brand manager that communicates on my behalf sometimes. Sometimes I'll communicate directly with company. It depends what it is, and it depends on the relationship, like how I connect with the people originally. But if it's like someone emails me, I have a girl that manages my emails, my like social media emails, and she'll negotiate on my behalf to just talk to the company, like see what they want, and then she'll sort of relay with me and be like, do you like this product? Are you interested? This is what they're offering. And I'll be like, okay, send it to me. I'll try it. And then I'll try it. If I like it, then I'll be like, okay, like, and she kind of like coordinates everything and makes it happen. Yeah. So.
And all your products right now, it's all to do with boxing, or will you do anything outside of boxing?
I mean, not all to do with boxing specifically, but probably all to do with like my lifestyle, as far as like being an athlete in general. like CBD, that's like not specifically to do with boxing. That's just like for someone
Right.
who trains a lot and gets sore. It's very handy.
Right.
That soreness fast. And like some of the supplements and stuff that I take, you know, that's good for any athlete, not necessarily specifically boxing. I have Hayabusa boxing gloves. That's specifically boxing. And I have a few like clothing apparel companies that I work with as well that any girl could wear to brunch
Right.
even.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
when did I guess your social media and your career as professional boxer, like when was it the point where it was like, okay, I'm financially stable through my career as a boxer slash social media influencer, or kind of what you're doing right now?
Okay, so when I first moved to America, I told you I was modeling and I had some money saved as well. And I was kind of like living off my savings, but also modeling to, you know, pay the bills and stuff like that. But I wasn't booking enough jobs that it was enough to just live off that. Like my savings were slowly diminishing until I got to a point where I had, I don't know, a couple of thousand in my bank account. And I was like, shit, I need to do something fast because otherwise I'm not going to be able to pay my rent next month. And so I ended up getting a job. I was like, okay, I'm going to work in hospitality. Like that's easy and it's transient. You know, it's not like you have to sign up for 5 years or get involved in a career. I've done it before. I know what I'm doing. And here in Miami, you can make so much money in hospitality. It's ridiculous because the service charge is a lot of the time included, but even if it's not included, it's expected. People will always tip, and especially if you like show them a really good time, they'll give you way over the expected service charge, you know, because it's like that's the American lifestyle. That's how people are. That's the attitude here. Whereas in Australia, it's like you can do a great job and you might get a couple bucks. Like, you know, it's not, tipping is not
Yeah.
expected. People will, I used to make so much money in the nightclubs in Australia because they leave their $1 or $2 because it's the change for, and no, when you're out in a nightclub, you don't want to carry around a couple coins. We don't have anything below $5 is coins. So
I
whereas here
see.
you have dollar bills, yeah. So that was how I made a lot of money in the nightclubs in Australia. If you were doing the same thing in like a restaurant where it's like one bill, you'd probably make the change, like $4, you know, like a tip. Like it's, I mean, maybe if you had like a nice restaurant and you got really good service, you might leave $20 or something, you know. But it's not like here where it's like every transaction requires a tip, and people are prepared to do that. So I didn't want to work nights because that would fuck up my boxing training. I was like, okay, I need to work days, but I didn't want to work in just like a restaurant. I was like, where can I work in Miami that I will make the most money possible? So I'm like asking around, and I found out that the pool at the Fontainebleau is very lucrative. So I turned up. They gave me the number of the staffing agency, the girls that worked there. I was like, how do I get a job here? Just like turned up at the pool, and they gave me the number. I call this number. They brought me in for an interview the next day at the staffing agency. They're asking me like, name 5 vodkas, name 5 champagnes, name 5 bourbons, whatever. And like the vodka, I did okay. The champagne, I was okay. When it got to like rums and stuff like that, I was like, party. I don't know. Like, yeah, I was like struggling, and they were like, okay, like, how much experience do you say you have? And I'm like, listen, all this stuff I can learn on Google in 3 seconds. Like, just give me 24 hours and I'll give you all your answers. What you can't learn on Google is what I know how to put a smile on every single person's face that comes into my presence, make them have an amazing day, give them good service, and like, you know, be fast,
Yeah.
attention to detail and whatever. Like all that other stuff, I'll learn. You watch. And they were just like, whoa, okay. And I was just like, you know, I owned and ran a gym for 7, 8 years in Australia. Like that was my job, is literally to make people feel good about themselves, have an amazing time, and leave there with a smile on their face, feeling on top of the world. You know, I was like, I'm gonna be so good at my job, you just watch. And so I think they were just like, oh, okay, all right. So we can send you for an interview at the hotel tomorrow, but make sure you know 5 of all the different types of scripts. So we will ask you.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went in for the interview. There was like a bunch of people interviewing, and they're like, who wants to go first? I'm like, yep, me, pick me. So I went in. I like passed the bit about the 5 different types of alcohol, got through that. They're like, okay, you're going to go now interview with like the food and beverage manager. And I had to interview with like all these people going up and up and up the ranks kind of thing. So I'm like interviewing with the, one of the higher guys, and they're like, okay, and so like, what are your career aspirations? And I was like, well, I'm going to be world champion boxer. They're like, oh, okay. So why do you want to work here? Well, I think it'll be fun, and it's something that I can do that's not going to interfere with my training. I get to be like out and about and socializing without ruining my health. And I think this is going to be a really fun experience. And they were just like, damn, okay. And I got like hired on the spot. So that was really cool. And I ended up making more money than anyone for those few months that I was there. And while I was doing that, I was speaking to a friend of mine who I'd met in the boxing gym. And he was about to go to Greece for the summer because he owns a nightclub over there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, why don't you come and work for me? And I was like, well, because, I have this job here and I can like box here and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, seriously, like, think about it. The money over there, I guarantee you it's a lot more than what you're making here. And I was just like, okay. And so I went away and thought about it. It was one of those things that I just like couldn't stop thinking about. Mm-hmm. And so a few days later, I called him up and I was like, okay, tell me more. Like if I can't think about something, it's like, I know I'm probably going to do this. And so yeah, I call him up. I'm like, tell me more. He's like, okay, so you can come halfway through the season because some other girl could only do half the season. So I was going to finish off her season. There's like staff accommodation. You literally just like turn up and we'll sort everything out from there. I was like, okay. So that's what happened. I was not going for like another month and a half sort of thing. So I finished up working at the Fontainebleau, and I jumped on a plane, went to Mykonos. I had no idea I knew nobody but him, my friend, who was my boss. And I had the best summer of my whole life, made a stupid amount of money, like ridiculous. I never seen money like this in my entire life. What people would just like pull out to pay for these tables. And the thing was, people were there from all over the world. So when it came to pay the bill, they'd be like, oh, how much do I tip you? Like, what's the standard here? And you could tell them whatever you wanted. You said, $1,000's good. Like, it's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like it was insane. And so, yeah, I had like the best summer of my whole life. It was so much fun. And I had like 4 weeks of work. And then I was supposed to have like a week and a half of just holiday before I came back to America. But when my flight was booked to come back to America, there was a hurricane. Do you remember that a few years ago? And the entire state was evacuated.
Yeah. I had gone to Guatemala. I had bounced out of Miami too. Yeah.
So it was like 2017, I think.
Yeah.
The entire state was evacuated. And that was when I was supposed to be coming back to Miami. And I was like, well, I guess there's no point going back, is there? Like, there's nothing to go back to. No one's there. Nothing's open. Like, everything's shut. And so the flight was cancelled, and I just never ended up rebooking it. I just stayed and stayed and stayed. And eventually I finally left Mykonos and went to Athens. And I was just going to do like a couple of days in Athens and work my way back up to London, where I was going to fly back to Miami. But while I was in Athens, I was like, okay, I want to like start training again. So I found on Google a boxing gym, walked into this boxing gym, and there was a girl who was a world champion there. She was a few weight classes above me, but whatever, we're girls, we work. And I was like, hey, like, she's like, do you want to spar? And I was like, hell yeah. Okay. So I came back that evening and we sparred, and it was like, she was definitely better than me, but it was like really good sparring, like I gave it. And her coach said to me after, how long are you staying in Athens? And I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe a few days, but I'm not sure. He's like, well, if we give you a house to live in and like train you for free, will you stay for a month? because she had a fight coming up and she wanted like a girl sparring partner to help her prepare. And I was like,
Yeah.
hell yeah. So I ended up living in Athens and being her training partner for like a month. So that was an amazing experience. So that was what I was telling you. I have an amazing coach in Greece earlier, who, yeah, I train with. And so that would be my pattern, is every year I would go to Mykonos and work for, in the end it was like 2 months. That first year I just did 1 month, but after that it was like 2 months I'd work, and then I'd go to Athens and I would train until I had a fight in America, and I would come back to fight, and then I would stay the rest of the year in America until I would go back to Greece again for the summer to work. But so the money that I would make in Mykonos every summer, that was enough to like pay my bills for a whole year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So
And
that was how I
Miami
was
too.
surviving. Yeah, that was how
Yeah.
I was surviving for those first few years in Miami. And over this time, I was like growing my social media, but like I didn't have to be, and like I was modeling a little bit as well. But that having that money from Mykonos enabled me to be picky and choosy, you know, and that's one thing I'm really grateful for, that I never like just promoted something to promote it. Just, hi, teeth whitening, like, here, waist trainers, it'll make you skinny. Hey, drink this tea and you'll get skinny. Woo! Like, fuck no, I'm not about that stuff. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that experience, to not have to be in that position. And even with modeling as well, like I've had many job offers from like supplement companies to just be a model, basically. Like, it's, I don't have to promote anything, but it's like, you know, they want me to be the face of whatever, and I'm just like, nah, because that could ruin, because that, you know, if I'm for, I don't know, $1,500 the face of all their products and brands, my face is all over their stuff, I now can't work with another supplement company that might pay me $1,000 a month, you know. It's like, why would I like ruin that deal? So I've been able to be like picky and choosy and selective about that, because of, you know, that money from Mykonos. So
yeah, because your personal brand is so strong too. So like if you're supporting a supplement that's not great either, like your personal brand is just kind of wrecked.
Exactly. People like lose trust in you because they're just like, why are you promoting shit? So yeah, that was always important to me, was to be like real and authentic and stuff. And so yeah, and then just over the years, I did have brand deals and stuff. It wasn't like that was enough to pay my bills and support me until, so I did 3 years of working in Mykonos, and then after that third year, I was finally making enough from my social media that I was good just on that. And then, yeah, thank God, because then the pandemic hit, and that fourth year I wouldn't have been able to go back anyway. I mean, I could have, but because I have a European passport, so I actually could have gone, but I mean, it wouldn't have been the same. I wouldn't have made the kind of money that I would have made in the past, and it wouldn't have been the same vibe or anything. And plus, I had a boyfriend by then, so it wouldn't have been that fun to be away for so long. And I also broke my ankle, so I couldn't anyway. But yeah, and then after, when was it? When did I start OnlyFans? So it was last year, which was 2020. Yeah, end of 2020. So it was like I was already like, you know, doing fine off my social media and stuff like that. And I'd heard about OnlyFans. So in the pandemic, you probably heard, do you know what OnlyFans is? Yeah, it's like a website where, yeah, people like subscribe to you and pay you to see your content. It's kind of like Facebook, but people pay to see your content. So there's two ways it can go. They can pay like a subscription, or it can be like pay-per-view. And during the pandemic, this website became really famous because all the strippers and prostitutes and those sex workers that couldn't work were able to now work via OnlyFans. And so, you know, this site became hugely popular and just like blew up, especially during the pandemic. And I knew a few girls that were on it, but I also knew the type of stuff that they were like posting on Instagram and stuff. And I was just like, like not really the kind of image that I want to have. And it was the end of 2020. Like, I think I signed up in September. So it would have been, yeah, mid-September. One of my best friends, Joey, he's a photographer, and he had just been on a trip doing a shoot with a bunch of models that were all on OnlyFans, and he was picking their brains about it, having these conversations with them, just asking them like, what do they post, what do they make, what, you know, what's it like. And he was telling me one girl doesn't get nude. She does very sexy things and like bikini lingerie, but she doesn't get nude. At this point, I think now she shows her nipples, but at that point she didn't even show her nipples. She was making $90,000 a month. And
A
then two
month?
other girls a month. And then two other girls that were there were making 40 and 50,000 a month. Same thing. Not, I think the girl that was making 40, she got topless. But the rest of them, like, they were being very sexy, but they were not showing anything. And when he told me that, I was like, I don't care about anyone and their opinions anymore. Sign me up. That is ridiculous. Because for me, it's like, I don't care. Like, I go and sunbathe topless on the beach, like, all the time. Like, I don't give a shit. The only reason that I'll put a top on and whatever is because other people might care and I don't want them to feel awkward. And the reason I don't post nude pictures online or, you know, put that content out there is because I care what, you know, brands that I might want to work with, they might not like it because of the image it portrays, and therefore they might not want to work with me. But I was like, no brand is paying me that much money, so they can their opinion doesn't matter at this point. Like, I'm gonna make that money. And I think the key thing was I didn't realize how much people are willing to pay, or I guess it's just like a volume thing. Like, you don't even have to charge that much, but when a large volume of people will buy it, then it adds up real fast.
Well, and
but
you probably already had like, oh, sorry, you probably already had the huge fan base already, anyways. So it's just like converting people from your existing fan base.
Right. So, and the thing is, like, these girls were paying, they had like 1 million plus followers on Instagram, and they had already been posting stuff on Instagram that was very sexy. So it's like they have 1 million followers on Instagram that are immediately going to convert to 1 million OnlyFans followers, you know? Whereas my subscribers first of all, I only have like 200 and something, like, so a quarter of what they have. And not all of mine are there because they see me as sexy, you know? There's like a lot of girls there. There's a lot of even just guys that follow me for boxing and don't care about sexy stuff, you know? So I didn't like have that everybody is going to jump over kind of thing, but I did have a much better response than I thought. And especially there's a lot of like loyal people that will it doesn't matter what price you put on something, like they want to see it. So that was really cool because it was like where I might not have had the volume, I had a volume of people that will pay good money if I give them like good content, you know? So
do you ever have like interactive content with like not something like camming, but like do you ever with your loyal like followers or something, like do you ever have like just chat sessions or anything? Or
so that's the thing, like, so a lot of people will say, why would people pay for sexual content when you can go to Pornhub and get free porn? And it's because, can you message the girl in the video of Pornhub and tell her what you like? Can you tell her that, ask her how her day's going, and have her ask you how your day's going and get to know her and have like a bit of a personal connection with her? For a lot of guys, that's a big turn on, is that the girl that, you know, they have a connection with this girl and they have a somewhat, you know, friendship or relationship with this girl, and then they get to see her sexual or sexy pictures or videos or whatever. So for them, that's way better than watching porn. And that's the draw to OnlyFans, really, is that communication aspect. So yeah, there's like a message feature where it's like people can tip to message, and some people will tip you $5 to send a message and others will tip you 50 to send a message. I've had guys, the maximum is 200, and I've had guys tip me 200 to send a message. They didn't have to send that much, they just wanted to, I don't know, they appreciated my content, I guess, and wanted to say thank you. But so.
And how is it managing your OnlyFans and then your social media in general, right? Because I assume you're getting a lot of comments and messages, like It's got to take a lot of time, no?
Okay, so that was the thing is, you know how I said like the reason I never joined for so long was because I was concerned about what like brands that I work with would think, and maybe I'd lose sponsorship deals and stuff like that. Nothing changed. Absolutely nothing changed. I lost nothing. If anything, I picked up more. And I don't think I picked up more because it was because of OnlyFans. I think just as my social media was growing and I was, you know, becoming more of a presence and more popular and stuff, then I was in front of more people who I got these opportunities. But it literally affected me zero. The only way it affected me was I had like one or two friends that were kind of judgy about it, probably just jealous, to be honest. But like, and I say that yeah, but like in a sad for them kind of way, you know, like most of my friends, I'd tell them about like what I was doing and we'd laugh about it together. We'd be like, oh my God, can you believe this? Like, this is insane. And, you know, sometimes you get some kind of strange messages or requests and you can have a little giggle with your friends and stuff about like some of the stuff you're getting. And everyone I know is like, they know who I am and they know the type of person I am and whatever. Like, nothing, I don't change as a person and we still, you know, it's like, whatever. But yeah, I did have like one or two people that were very judgy and I was like, well, your loss, like you could have laughed about it with me, but instead you just like lost all my respect. So
do your parents know? Like, have you told them or would they find out?
My parents are not on social media. And
okay.
So no, I don't think they know. I mean, they might. My grandpa is on Instagram and follows me on Instagram. I posted about it a few times. So maybe they know. I don't know. But yeah. I mean, if they do know, it hasn't been brought up, that's for sure.
What I mean, like, question, I mean, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but what, like, do your sponsorship deals make you more money right now, or does your OnlyFans make you more money, or definitely your fight?
Definitely OnlyFans. I don't know if sponsorship deals will ever make me more than OnlyFans because that money is ridiculous. Like, I can't even believe it. In not even 6 months, we could have bought a house. We didn't because I don't know what house to buy, but like it is stupid, money. It's insane.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. What's your plan? Like, I guess what's your plan? Do you think that OnlyFans has like an expiration date? Like it's a trend that's gonna kind of stop, or you think it's gonna be around for a long time?
I'm treating it like it does have an expiration date. Maybe it won't. I don't know when that expiration date will come, because here's the thing is that people come and go. Like, think about friends in your life. Think about jobs that you've had. Like, everything comes and goes. And even think about your favorite singer or artist. Like, there was a period in your life where you loved all their songs, everything they did. And then after, you know, a few years, whether it was just a few or it was a decade or more, you got over it. And everyone that loved them got over them at different points. But I think that's kind of how it goes. And I mean, for 34, I think I look all right. But who knows when the point is that I'm going to start to look a bit shabby and there's going to be some new, cool, young chick that they would rather spend their money on instead. I don't know. So from the day that I started it, I treat it like this 99% will not last forever. But as long as it does last, I'm going to like, you know, put the effort into it and like try and make the most of it. But I'm not, my point of saying that is like, I'm not living like a millionaire and going and just like spending money and dishing it out and buying expensive clothes and shit like that. Like, almost all the money I've made is saved and gone into investments or waiting to be spent on investments. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's crazy. I can't believe that's like 90,000 in 1 month. That's absolutely nuts.
Like we live like we're poor. Like, we have a car that's like 15 years old. The handle's broken. We don't fix it. The radio doesn't work. The light in the back is hanging by a thread. So when you drive, it goes like this. We call it the disco light. Like, And we don't plan on upgrading the car until it literally shits itself and dies. Then we'll get a new car. You know, it's like, I don't want to live like, you know, wasting money for nothing.
Well, that's
So,
the way
I
to
mean,
do it. It gives you
huh?
so much more, it gives you so much more freedom, right? Because if you're living way below your means, then you just have ridiculous amount of freedom, right? If something happens, then you got like cash for a long time type thing.
Well, and I feel like when you spend money on things, you like care about those things. Like, I don't want to care about material things. I'll spend endless money on a holiday, on traveling, on stuff like that, because for me, that's an experience. I do spend endless money on like boxing training and massages and physical therapy and stuff like that, because and my health and my food. Like, I'll spend money on food, like, you know, buying everything organic at the grocery store, because for me that's an investment, like in my health and my body and feeling good and stuff like that.
In terms of like boxing, how do you view boxing? Like, you just want to do it until you get tired of it type of thing, or you want to achieve a goal and then, or what's
Yeah,
kind of your goal of boxing?
basically. So I used to at the start be like, I want to be world champion, and that goal was like what I was saying. And then I started to be like, well, once I started to realize how boxing really works, like I explained to you, it's literally a popularity contest, and you can be the best and never get opportunities. Like, I know a girl, for example, her name is Maureen Shea, and she's amazing boxer, like ranked in the top, I don't know, 5 in the world probably, but can't get a fight, can't get a decent fight. She should be fighting for a world title and she should have a world title. But the reason she can't get a fight is because, and she used to have one, but then she got injured and so she had to relinquish her titles, and then she just hasn't got an opportunity again since. So the reason she, in my opinion, that she can't get a fight is because she's a little older now. I think she's like close to 40. And she came through boxing at a time when social media wasn't there. So she didn't have like a fan base growing on social media. Women's boxing was not put on TV. So the only people that were like fans were sort of like local fans, you know? And then
Right.
now in an age where you have girls coming through like me and even like other young girls that have social media presence and are getting like women's boxing is now in the Olympics. So you have these girls coming out of the Olympics that have this popularity because, you know, they've been in front of the world and
Right.
whatever. You're compared, like, these girls are getting opportunities because they bring eyes and money to the sport. Whereas a girl like her, phenomenally talented, like as good as, if not better, who knows, because they never get to fight, than these girls. But because she doesn't have the popularity, she's not getting the opportunities. Also, why would someone that has a world title belt want to fight her? She brings no popularity to the fight, aka no money to the fight, but also she'll probably beat them. Why do they want to take a risk? Like, if you're going to take a risk with, like, thing is, you have a world title belt. There's no, in MMA, you've got the UFC, which is like the main governing body. And so the matchmakers in the UFC say, you will fight you will fight you, and you will fight you. And if you say no, good luck getting another opportunity. So the fights in the UFC are very competitive, and that's what's made the UFC so popular. And that's why boxing started to fall by the wayside and a lot of people lost interest, is because for a while, fighters were ducking and weaving each other, because we have 4 world title belts. Like, there's more than just 4, but there's like 4 major ones that are like recognized as the best. And there's not one that's recognized as like better than another. So you have guys that'll be like, yeah, I'm world champion, but they never fight another world champion. They just keep their separate belts and they fight not shitty, but they fight guys that are like not gonna beat them because they're not at their level, just to maintain their belt and to defend their belt. And they never actually end up fighting these other amazing guys. So if you have a whole pool of people to fight, you have to fight every, I don't know, 9 or 12 months or whatever the rule is. Each federation is different in their rules, but you have to fight every so often to maintain your belt and keep it. Why are you going to fight someone that you'll probably lose it to, unless they're bringing a lot of money and publicity to then it's worth it for you. Then it's worth taking that risk and, like, you know, putting yourself to the test. But if this person's not bringing that, like, why would you want to fight someone that's probably going to beat you? So that's the terrible position that she's in at the moment. And that's what kind of sucks about boxing, is because there's no governing body that's sort of like forcing her. Boxing's just all money. So anyway, when I realized, a few years into boxing, really how it works, I was like, okay, like if I'm good enough, I could probably get these opportunities because thankfully I have this popularity. But I also realized that why is it that a world title belt or winning a world title is so important to me? Is it just for like the glory to say I did? Because let's face it, you don't even necessarily have the best fighters as the world champion. So if you win it, so what? Like, it's like once you win it, then you hold the belt, so you can choose to fight these people that you think are amazing and deserve an opportunity if you want to. But I made this realization, and I just started to think that why did I want to become a world champion? And it was because, just like everything that I've been through and what I've come through, as far as, getting kicked out of at home at 15, like moving countries, people telling me I can't, people like scoffing at the way I look. Why are you in a boxing gym? What are you doing? Like all this stuff, it's like I'm the least likely person to box and to be able to achieve this goal, and even just to fight in general. And I think a lot of women relate to me because they see someone that, why would I want to mess up my looks? But I'm doing it because I love it, and I'm still look like this. I don't have a sideways nose, and I'm able to like move my head enough to not get hit. And it encourages regular women to want to be involved in the sport, because it's like, oh wow, like if she can do it, I could do it. I like inspiring people, and I like giving people that motivation to like get off their ass and go and try something new, or try something that they probably have been told they couldn't do or they shouldn't do, or might seem very unconventional and impossible to actually like succeed in. Especially like given who they are or where they've come from or whatever it might be, like I love that. And with social media and being able to share my journey and my training and like everything that I'm doing, and just my hiccups and my story. I think a few years ago I was living with a rat in my house for like 6 months, and every day I'd give, or not every day, but every week I'd give like little rat updates and stuff. It's like people see the whole journey of what you've been through, where you've lived, the kind of situations you've been in, the people you're with, like to get to where you've got to, and they enjoy that ride with you and stuff like that. And I love that. And for me, I'm already achieving my goal. Like that's what drives me, and when I realized that, like I'm already achieving my goal, like why am I boxing then? And what's my motivation to like be better and better? And I just want to have better and better fights. Like every fight that I have, I want it to be a better opponent than the last one, or a different opponent to the last one. Like show me something different, like I told you, my last opponent, she brought a style that I never had in front of me before, so that was really cool. I've never fought someone taller than me before. I haven't fought a left-hander before. Like there's a lot of different scenarios, or even just like there's so many different styles, so many different ways people can box, that I just want to challenge myself with. And to me, that's more important and more fun than necessarily getting a title, which of course that would be really cool too, but that's not the be all and end all for me. And also the older I get, the more I'm experiencing other things in life. Like I love to travel, and I've always been pretty lucky where I've kind of fit traveling and boxing together. In that when I first moved to America, I found it very difficult to get good any girl sparring, but especially good girl sparring here in Miami. So often I'd spend like a month in Chicago, a month in LA, a month in New York. I was going everywhere and exploring America, making new friends and meeting people in different teams. And that gave me a lot of opportunities too, which was really cool. And internationally, I mean, Greece, I walked into that gym, and I stayed in Athens and really got to know Athens as a city and fell in love with it because of that boxing gym. So yeah, I love how boxing has helped me travel, but also like there's experiences I want to have, even playing beach volleyball, like I just a year and a half ago. Like almost 2 years now, I guess, but sort of like a year since I really properly started playing. But like I love that sport. I've fallen in love with it. And I realize I'm probably never going to be like an Olympian or a world champion, but I love to play beach volleyball. It's so much fun. And it's a new challenge for me that I've like fallen in love with. And, but while I have like, you know, the last few weeks that I've had this fight coming up, I haven't been able to play. And I hate feeling like I'm missing out. I'm like so bummed because I don't want to take the risk of like injuring myself right before such a big fight, you know, opportunity kind of thing. That would be stupid. So there are sacrifices that you have to make with boxing, especially when you have a big fight and you need to throw everything all in. And for me, it's worth it because I love the outcome of fighting and the challenge and stuff like that. But I think there's going to come a point in time where I am just like, I'm not interested anymore. Maybe the challenge runs out for me, or I just get bored, or maybe other things in life start to become more exciting for me. At some point soon, I want to have kids as well. Not necessarily that I have to give up because I have kids, but I'll definitely be taking a break. But in saying that, like I just, between my last 2 fights, there was a year and a half because of, you know, pandemic, broken ankle and stuff like that. So, I mean, and then I came back strong. So what's a baby? It's the same time really, isn't it?
It's a lot of dodging you got to do there.
Yeah. Then there's sleepless nights and stuff. So yeah, maybe a year and a half. By the time I'm like ready to train hard again and ready to fight, it's 2 different things. So
yeah, you're gonna be like stationed on the beach. You're gonna pop out a kid, and the next day you're still gonna look amazing. Damn, screw you guys, like.
But but the beauty of females in boxing is that we have a long longevity in this sport. So like in male boxing, they tend to peak around the time they're like 30, and then some are still peaking into their mid 30s, but by sort of like your latter 30s, most men are not in their peak. You know, they can still win really good fights if they're a super high level fighter, but they're not at the peak of where they were years before. And that starts to signify the end of a career. But with females, like I know a girl who was 49 years old and a world champion. And the reason being is because she was a former ballet dancer and this girl moved. You could not touch her. So she didn't take any damage. So she lasted so long in the sport, you know, as long as she like kept training, staying fit. For her, it was a game of like, I got you, you can't get me. And then how are you going to beat this girl? Like it was hard. I mean, she ended up losing a few fights, and now she's, you know, got an amazing opportunity living in China and teaching boxing over in China. But I think that was the reason she stopped boxing, was because she had an even better, more exciting opportunity. But if she had kept going, she could probably still be a world champion right now, you know?
Have you ever but have you ever thought about opening your own gym, like your own boxing gym down here in Miami?
No. After owning the gym in Australia for that whole time, like it wasn't a boxing gym. We had a boxing ring in the gym, but like just for fun. It wasn't a boxing gym. It was a fitness gym. It was like a boutique fitness gym. I loved it. I loved doing it, but the problem for me was that you're tied to a physical spot. And I like being free and able to be anywhere, anytime, any place. I don't have any like responsibility that's holding me to one place, you know? And I mean, I realized that like you can have a gym and you can have employees that are running the gym, but I don't know. I feel like if you have a business like that, it's important to be there and have a physical presence, because a gym is a very personal thing, especially if you're coaching and you're a coach yourself, because that would, you know, be my motivation to have a gym, would be because I have that passion to coach, and which I do. I love coaching boxing. I'm always like, people ask me for tips, I'll be there half an hour later still teaching them something. You just I didn't mean to be at all. I probably had to go, but here we are. So I do really love it, especially if people are interested and they're like really, you know, trying to get into it and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I really value just being able to be anywhere at any time. And so I had that experience before, and it's not something that I want to, and it's a lot of work too. It really is a lot of work. So I think I've got other things going on that I really enjoy, and that's, I don't have space for that at the moment. I mean, never say never, but it's not a desire of mine at this point.
Did you ever, over the course of your, I guess, going for being a professional boxer, were there moments where you were about to quit and you were about to say like, ah, nah, like I don't think this is gonna work, or you just never lost the faith?
Never until earlier this year.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. So I hadn't fought since January 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and then the pandemic hit, and then I broke my ankle, and then I was coming back from a broken ankle, and it was so frustrating because like I thought I was good, and then I'd be like tested in a really hard sparring session or something, and I would just be like dead, like, and I couldn't work out like why was it so difficult for me getting my fitness back. And it's just a process. Like you break something, and I sort of, because I could play volleyball before I could box. I could, like, moving across the sand. That helped me actually get really strong in my ankle. And then I could box, but I could box before I could run. Running was like the last thing that I could do. And part of my game plan with boxing is I'm fitter than everyone else. I
Mm-hmm.
move a lot. I be hard to hit, and I get in, get out, and like I'm not the biggest power puncher, but I'll wear you down, and then you're weak, and then my punches feel powerful. So that's sort of more like my game plan. And
Uh-huh.
so without that fitness, I felt like I had no sting, I had nothing to offer, kind of thing. And it really took me forever to get that back, because I didn't realize how much running had been responsible for that. I've always been able to run forever without a problem, but because of my ankle, I was starting again from like half a mile, 6.6, 0.7, 0.8,
Yeah.
0.9, 1 mile. And now I can run 1 mile, and it's like because
Yeah.
I didn't run a long distance for such a long period of time, I lost the fitness as well. So even then, when I could run, you know, more than 4 miles, like even now to this day, I find it difficult to get past 4.5 miles. That's sort of, I've run 5 miles a couple of times, but it was in Greece where the humidity was not Miami. I think I'll be able to run 5, 6+ miles here. I think this winter is when I'm going to get my running fitness back again, because it's going to be winter, so I'm not going to have the dehydration aspect
Nice.
as an excuse, and I'll be able to push past that barrier enough times that I then have the fitness, and then even if I'm dehydrated, I'm still like, when the summer rolls around again, I'll
Yeah.
still be able to get past it. So that's my way of thinking at the moment, because at the moment I like 4 mile, 4.5 mile mark, I'm so dehydrated, I'm dizzy, like my legs are fine, but I'm so dizzy. Like fuck, like I can't breathe, and yeah, it's bad. But yeah, so my point is that like I had a lot of sort of false starts at the end of last year and the start of this year, thinking that I was like ready, and then I wasn't, and it was quite frustrating. And then I thought I was ready, or I was ready, and I had a fight. Like I thought I was going to fight in March, didn't happen. Like it fell through. The fight just never got made. I guess I don't know, found someone else or whatever. Thought I was going to have another fight in April, didn't happen. Thought I was going to have another fight in May, didn't happen. And by this point, it was like, because you always think that you're going to be fighting in the next month, it's not like you have enough time to just take a break and reset. It's like, no, 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 I might be fighting in 3 or 4 weeks. Like I need to keep going. So
Mm-hmm.
come May, or come like the idea of fighting in May, it's like I've been training hard for like 5, 6 months now with no break. Like, oh no, it's like 5 months, because it was the start of the year that I really started training again, because I had Corona in December last year, so that forced me, and I just like relaxed for a little while. But yeah, and I think it was like April-ish that I was just like, you know what, I just want to take a break for a while without the pressure of,
Mm-hmm.
do I have a fight coming up, do I not, like I need a break. And yeah, I thought about giving up. I thought, I'm having a lot of fun playing beach volleyball. I don't need boxing to make money. Like I'm making money on social media no matter what. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not like I'm relying on this to, obviously that's like, part of my, what I'm posting about in the life that I'm living,
Mm-hmm.
and reason people probably follow me. But it's like if I went into something else and was trying something else, like I feel like the motivation carries on, kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, and I sort of had all these questions going through my head, like, is this really worth it to me? This is very frustrating. Like I was just really sick of everything, whatever. And then all of a sudden I got the phone call that not only did I have one fight coming up, I had two. So this fight on September 18, I was offered that fight first. And then, but that was like sort of 4 or 5 months away that I was offered the fight. And I was like, hell yes. So obviously that sparked my motivation. But if I didn't fight until September, it would be almost 2 years that I would have been out of the ring coming up to this fight. And it's a really big event, huge show. It'll be like heavily publicized all around the world. And I was like, I don't want that to be my first fight back in so long. So we madly scrambled to try and find me another fight. That fight in Miami, I got paid nothing. Like, if anything, it cost me money to have that fight. But it was worth it for me just to like get back in the ring and whatever to be ready for this fight coming up. So
well, it was super fun to watch. I've never seen a professional boxing fight, but that was amazing. It was so fun. Everyone's like, Ozzy, 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 oi, oi, oi.
That was one of the biggest motivations as well to have that fight, were like, especially that one, even though it was, because I could have gone to Mexico and I could have fought and got paid to fight in Mexico. But I mean, not very much, but like at least not costing me money, you know? But to have that fight here in Miami, it was like, but everyone can come watch. They get to see, like, because for the amount of time that I've known everybody, I had one fight, and that one fight, it was in Miami. They messed up they opened the venue later, half an hour later than what they should have, and they put my fight earlier than what it should have been. So basically, while my fight was on, there was nobody in the venue, and everybody, I had like 80 people waiting outside to try and get in. And they didn't open the doors until I was walking out of the ring. So everyone got in, and they were obviously really upset. So no one has seen me fight, like, you know, since I started playing volleyball, like our whole community, everyone, like a lot of my, you know, more recent friends and stuff like that. Like, you know, my friends that have been my friends forever, they've seen me fight, obviously. But like, you know, this whole community and stuff that I've become a part of, like no one's seen me. So I was like, okay, like this will kind of be like the makeup fight where they finally get to, if I fight in Miami, you know, it's like everyone can come watch. It'll be a fun event and stuff like that. So I was really happy that everyone turned out because, it was good.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And two, I want to know the story of, kind of taking it back a little bit because we kind of skipped over it. I want to know the story of, I guess, why you broke up with your husband and how you made that decision and what was going on.
Yeah, so I met him when I was 21 and we got married when I was 23. He was 10 years older than me, just to paint a picture. So I think had he been like closer to my age, and his path that he wanted to go down in life was he wanted to get married, have kids, like that was sort of the direction that he was heading in. And it just so happened that he had a girlfriend that was much younger than him, that he wasn't like pressuring me or forcing me into that, but it's like when you're around that and all his friends are sort of his age and doing that, it kind of becomes your surroundings. And like I don't want to say he pressured me into it because he didn't, but it was sort of like that's the path that you sort of now jump onto as well, just because you're surrounded by it. And so I remember when he proposed to me, I was like very flattered because the guy that I loved just proposed to me, but I was so unsure. Like the 9 months from when he proposed to the wedding, I was constantly like questioning myself, like, is this the right decision? What am I doing? Obviously, I never said anything to anyone. I kept that entirely to myself. But yeah, it was just, and it wasn't that I didn't want to marry him or I didn't love him or anything like that. I was just like so young and I didn't know what I wanted. Like I was so unsure, you know, but I was also kind of like, well, this is the guy I love and this is what he wants. And like, why would I think otherwise? Like, I'm happy. I love, like, everything is great. Our life is great. Like why not? You know, that was the thing. It was not like, I wasn't trying to answer. It was more like, why not? Like, okay, whatever. And so I did. So we got married. And so, yeah, I want to start it like that. Like I kind of went into the marriage of like, I don't feel like the dating was probably long enough for someone my age who, this was my second serious relationship. Like I didn't know what I wanted, what type of, like, I didn't know, you know, it was just like, okay, I like this, so whatever. And
Typical Avril response over your life. I feel like, but yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, and honestly,
Uh,
like everything was good. We had a great relationship. I had complete freedom within the relationship. Like he, as I said, being 10 years older, he had traveled a lot in his time, so he encouraged me to travel. Even without him, just to because he knows that I love to travel, and he knows like how much it did for him and stuff like that. So he was always like, "Yeah, go, like, yeah, go to this place on your own. See you in 2 weeks, whatever." And so yeah, everything was great, honestly. Like we were the best of friends, like the relationship was fantastic, but there were things that we didn't see eye to eye on, and those things were like moral type things. There were things that he thought were wrong and I didn't have a problem with at all. So I might behave in a certain way and he would get angry, and I'd be like, but I don't see any problem with what I did. And for me, I sort of felt like it was a restriction on my freedoms or my being of myself, or just expressing who I was and how I was. Like there were times where he might tell me not to behave in a certain way, and he was saying it from a point of like, you'll embarrass yourself in front of other people or something like that. But and he's just trying to be like loving and look out for me, I guess. But for me, I felt like I had to like suppress kind of who I was. Not This is a very small percentage. Like most of the time I was
mm-hmm.
perfectly happy, but there were moments, throughout the relationship. And when those things would happen, I would question, like I would be really sad, and I would question like, okay, like is this the right relationship for me? But I'm also a very loyal person too. So I was kind of like, anytime I'd have those thoughts, I'd be like, no, like you're married, don't be stupid, like fix the problem. It's like, this is your life, this is what you signed up for, so like sort it out. And so I think I stayed in that relationship. I had the inkling that it probably wasn't the right relationship for me for quite a few years before I actually did anything about it. But like I said, I was loyal, so I was trying to like stick it out and just stay in that. And then it was so we'd been together for 7 years, and I was in Vegas doing a pageant actually. And I had two pageants to do while I was there, and they were like a month apart. And it was kind of like there was no point going to America, come back, or to like, it's like so many airfares and stuff. And so or maybe it was three, I don't know. I had like a bunch of stuff to do while I was there. So I was staying in Vegas for a month. So, you're going to be there for a month. You like start making friends with locals and people that live there. And anyway, I was like chatting to this guy. And as far as this guy knew, I was perfectly happily married, like had no issues in my relationship or anything. And he had got divorced like a year earlier. And he was just telling me, as a friend to friend conversation, he was like, I finally feel like after a year, I'm getting back to being myself. He's like, at the end of the relationship, I felt like I was compromising a lot of who I was, and like not arguing things that I really believed in just to avoid an argument. And I was kind of like not being me and not being true to myself. And also because of that, I was like really losing respect for myself. And I started to get like low self-esteem and stuff like that. And everything he was saying, he had no idea, but everything he was saying was just like stabbing me in the heart. I was like, holy shit. And that night, I didn't sleep the entire night. Like just everything was going through my head after that conversation. And I didn't sleep the whole night. And when the sun came up that morning, I knew I have to end this relationship. Like I can't be in this anymore. I don't want to wake up in 5 years' time and still feel like this. That's not fair to him. It's not fair. It's a waste of life. Forget loyalties and all that. Like he'll find another girl that loves him as and their relationship will be perfect, and he'll be even happier. Like I need to forget about that and whatever. So I made the decision, but I was also like, okay, I'm not going to end a marriage while I'm overseas in Vegas. But later that day, we're talking on the phone, and we were talking because we own the gym together. We were like talking about the gym, and we were like arguing about something, and he hung up on me. And then he rings me back a couple minutes later, and he's like, listen, like you're arguing against everything I say. Like, is there a problem? Blah, 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 whatever. Like, I feel like you're just like, whatever, I don't know, having a go at me. And I was about to start standing up for myself and being like, no, fuck you. No, I'm not. Like, what are you talking about? And then I just was like, you know what? Maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe I am. But it's probably just because I'm tired of this. I've had enough. Like, I'm done here. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, honestly, like I didn't want to say this while I'm in Vegas, but I can't lie another day, and it's going to be a few more weeks till I'm home. So I can't just pretend for this whole time that everything's okay, because it's not. Like, I want a divorce. And he was like, what? And it was just like silence, because it came out of nowhere, even for me. Like, it was, yes, it was something I'd fleetingly thought about for years, but it wasn't something I'd put serious thought into until that night that I couldn't sleep. And I just went over it and over it and over it. And it was the only solution for me in the end. And to finally say it, to finally like get those words out of my mouth, it was like the biggest weight off my chest. I have never experienced anything like that before. And I knew in that moment, I like, rather than being like sad or crying or, you know, that something was over, I was elated with happiness that I'd finally like had the confidence to make this decision, because it was obviously something that I was like scared to decide on for so many years. And to finally like make this decision and get it out in the open, like there was no going back for me. It was like that, it was done. And we talked for like an hour, very like calmly, nicely, friendly, just discussing everything and talking about everything. And I explained like how I felt and stuff like that, and just like everything. And but he just, I think he couldn't understand like what, like where this had come from just kind of suddenly, because the day before we'd been like in love on the phone and everything was perfect, you know. And yeah, I was just like, I've been thinking about it and whatever and blah, blah, blah. And I think he was just like really like suspicious of what the real reason was that I'd come up with this answer. So that's basically what happened. But then fast forward a few months, I was in Vegas for Halloween again for another pageant. And I was out in a club and I ran into this girl. We had all full the makeup on and stuff, you know, Halloween. And she's like, oh, how's Mark, my ex? How's the gym? And I was like, yeah, like everything's great. I mean, we're not together anymore. And she's like, oh, thank God. I'm so happy to hear that. And I was like, oh, what? Why? Like, that was the first time I ever had a reaction like that. You know, normally everyone else was, you know, when you tell someone you're divorced, people are like, oh, that's sad. Are you okay? Like, you know, and I was like, oh, why? She's like, oh, you know, just because like the cheating and stuff. And I was like, what? And I kind of like laughed, because I would never in a million years have ever suspected that he would be like, he was so in love with me and he treated me so well. And, you know, it was like, there's no way. He's just, even we had so many conversations about like other people cheating and he was so against it. And so like, that's so fucked up. How can they do that? Whatever, like about other people when it was brought up. And so I didn't believe her at first. I thought, oh, she's mistaken me for the wrong person. Like, it's Halloween. She's drunk. She probably didn't recognize me and she's thinking of someone else, you know? And so I left it. Anyway, a couple months later, back in Vegas, and she's a photographer, and she was like, hey, while you're here, do you want to do a shoot? And I was like, oh, hell yeah, let's do it. So anyway, we're on the shoot, we're hanging out, whatever, we have coffee afterwards. And she's like, listen, I feel so bad that I was like the one to tell you, because obviously she would have been able to tell that I had no idea what she was talking about. She's like, did you ever find out more about what happened? And I was like, no, like that was for real? What? And she's like, oh yeah. And then she told me like everything she knew. So it was like this, so there were like separate incidences. There was like one main girl that he had been having like a thing with on the side, like literally living a double life. She knew about me, so they were like not kind of like officially together, but it was like, you know how I said we always went on separate holidays?
Yeah.
So like when he went on holidays and he was going alone, he was not going alone. And when I was away, she was like, I don't know, on the scene, I guess. But like not in front of any of his friends, like literally kept her in private. Like nobody knew about her at all. Because when I told like a couple of my close friends when I found out, I was like, listen, like you're not going to believe this. I didn't either. Like, this is crazy. Do you know about this? And they were like, no way. Like no one knew, believed it, anything. So anyway, but she was like kind of the main girl that was like on and off. And then from what I understand is from some of the stories and stuff, there were other girls that were sort of like individual situations along the way as well. He'd basically been having like a 4-year affair in our 5-year marriage. And honestly, it was like the best news of my life when I found out everything, found out who she was, investigated, because I felt so guilty for ending the relationship. even though I like, you know, had my reasons, like it was for the better, it was the right thing to do, whatever, I felt so guilty still, you know, because it's like, oh, I let
Yeah.
this poor guy down. I made a commitment to him and I let him down. And then when I found this out, I was like, yes, I'm not the asshole. You're the asshole. Fuck yeah. So it's just like the best thing. I was liberated. I was free. And I was just like, fuck it. Like, I'm going to live my life as I please and sleep perfectly well at night. So,
That's hilarious.
yeah, that was
Wow.
basically what happened. So, you know, it's like, and I'm so grateful for not having found out until after, because, you know, obviously for me, like cheating is something that's non-negotiable in a relationship. Like
Right.
if you're like seeing someone on the side or you're looking around or whatever, like you're not truly in love with me. So I don't want to be a part of that. And that's just my personal opinion. I get that other people have different views. And I even have girlfriends who have cheated on their husbands or boyfriends, and they see it differently because of circumstances and whatever. But for me personally, that's just the way I see it, and it's cheating for me is something that's like non-negotiable. So I know that if I had have found out while we were together, I probably would have questioned, like I would have ended it, but I would have questioned if that was what I really wanted. And you know,
Right.
there would have always been that like heartache of like, yeah, something I'm very grateful I didn't have to deal with. I walked
Yeah.
out of there feeling very happy indeed. So
What
yeah,
a story.
everything worked out perfectly, and I felt liberated and free to go upon starting a new life and nothing holding me back. So it was honestly the best thing that could have happened.
That's hilarious. That's great. Well, that's not hilarious, but that's crazy. What a story.
Right.
Question, have you ever, your mentality is super funny, I find, because like you have these experiences and it's like you're never phased. Like, has there ever been a moment in your life where you like feel sad or feel like, damn shit, like, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Like never until Corona, honestly. I've
Really?
always can honestly 100% say that I'm the happiest person in the world and always have been. But something happened to me in the pandemic that just hit me. And I'm sure a lot of people as well. Like for the most part, I had a lot of fun in Corona. Like I had Milton home a lot. So we got to spend a lot of time together. But he was still working 2 days a week in the Coast Guard. So it was like I had my alone time, but I also had him. So honestly, it was like a pretty great scenario. And yeah, we made fun. We had fun. I think the biggest thing was like not knowing when it was going to end, and obviously boxing, which is like my purpose, and I mean not my purpose, but like my main thing that I do in life, and something that I felt really like defined who I was taken away from me. And so all of a sudden, I started to have these feelings of like worthlessness and what am I even doing in life? And what is my point of being here? And just like all these really negative thoughts. And I'd have days, random days, where I would wake up in the morning super anxious and sad and would just like cry all day. And I would start fights with my boyfriend, and he would click on pretty fast of like how I was, and he was good at like helping me to like realize what I was doing and be on my side rather than against me. He's good like that. So that was
Aw.
really helpful. But yeah, and then the next day I'd wake up and be perfectly fine again and on top of the world. It was literally, I felt like I had bipolar over Corona. And
Wow.
I think what then made it worse, like I had a few of these random days, like not immediately at the start, but sort of as it went on a little bit. And then the world opened up again. I was super happy. I was doing things. I was going to the gym again, and I was like, you know, feeling very hopeful, and like all those feelings were put behind me. And then I broke my ankle. And when I broke my ankle for the first 3 weeks, I was in pain 24/7, like not excruciating pain, but just in constant annoying pain. And so it's just always on your mind, the fact that you're incapable of doing anything. Milton was very great of like trying to stay with me and spend time with me, but obviously he's got a life to live too, and then he has his days of working as well, so he can't be with me like 24/7. And you know, he wants to go and like play volleyball and go to the beach and do fun things. And every I don't blame him for that, but every time that he would do those things, I just get like super depressed because I was like, this is fucked. I can't do anything. I want to be there so bad and I can't. And I became like a really clingy asshole girlfriend for a little bit sometimes, you know? And I was aware of what I was doing and I hated myself for it because I didn't want to be that person. So I started to get really like insecure. I lost a lot of confidence and I just built a little bit of complex and I became like a little bit depressed, to be honest. And I had like a lot of good days too, but I had these days where it would just like get to me and it was really, really hard to get through. And as my ankle got better, um, I started to get my confidence back again because every day was exciting. Like every day was like, oh my God, what am I going to be able to do today? Today I walked. Today I actually pushed up completely off my foot and it didn't hurt. Today I did this. Like every, you know, it's like focusing on those little wins, those little positives of like what I can do today that I couldn't do. So the recovery was a bit of an exciting time. And even if I couldn't go and like play full out volleyball ever, and I could at least go to the beach and be there and maybe like pepper on the sidelines with somebody or, you know, so I started to enjoy myself a little bit more. But, you know, the recovery, there's a lot of little wins, but there's also a lot of little setbacks too. And so when I'd have those little setbacks, it's like all those feelings of anxiety and stuff would come back. And it just felt like it was even though I was recovering fast, it felt like forever because it had been so long since I had been able to do everything 100%. And that was hard. So yeah, I had bad days and I had good days. And I think being a girl and having weird hormones doesn't help sometimes too. You know how it is. And yeah, and I feel like I said,
So
I
wait,
was huh?
that was your first time your whole entire life that you've ever like not been
Yeah,
happy?
yeah,
Really?
yeah. And but it was almost like having
Wow.
that taught me how to be unhappy. And so now in the last few months, I've found myself sometimes having these feelings and these moments and these bad days over things that are so stupid and irrelevant that would have never bothered me in the past. But it's almost like because I've learned how to be this way, I let things become a bigger deal than they should sometimes because it's like before I might look at a little setback, whatever it might be. I don't know.
Mhm.
I I don't know. I can't even remember. Like something stupid. I can't even remember what has pissed me off lately. But like one of my biggest things is
Poor
wasted
Milton.
time. Yeah. One of my biggest things is wasted time. I hate wasting time because I just feel like we have limited time on this earth and I don't ever want to be like wasting it and sitting around doing nothing when like there's so many things I want to do. Like I want to box, I want to play volleyball, I want to DJ, I want to party, I want to travel, I want to I don't know, like probably do something nerdy and study something one day. Like, you know, there's like so many things. Like, why do I want to waste a minute when it's like I could be doing something fun? That's kind of my attitude. So I've built a little bit of anxiety around this, I think. And I saw a psychologist for a while actually, and they pointed this out.
No
So that's
way.
why. But yeah, so you know, sometimes if I have a day where it's like, you know how you just have days where people say they're going to be there and then they're not, and so you kind of sit around and you wait and then your whole morning gets fucked up because of it because you planned this, whatever, I don't know. I have a bit of like a wasted time day.
Mhm.
I'll let that really affect me. Whereas before in the past, I would have just been like, okay, fuck it. What else we got to do today? Like, let's get on with it. And I
Right.
would have just put a smile on my face and kept moving and just only saw the positive. But now I found like I found a way to look at the negative and I don't like it. I'm trying to remember how to forget about this again and just focus on the positive. And I think I'm doing better and better. I think the biggest thing is just like making sure you spend enough time focusing on the positives and being grateful for all the little things, you know.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's easy to just like expect things and overlook little wins and little positives and things that you should be like thankful for. And when you overlook them too much, then all of a sudden, and you're only looking at like things that didn't go so well, the balance can seem in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy. That to me, that's fascinating because I don't think I've like, people are happy and you meet people who are generally, you know, but there's always like usually at some point in their life they've overcome something, or and I'm sure you've overcome a lot of things too, but it's just the fact that you're always happy except for I guess Corona. It's
I mean,
fascinating to me.
don't get me wrong, like I've had moments of stress, like getting kicked out of home and not knowing where I was going to go and having to make 1,000 phone calls till I could like find someone that would like let me stay at their house and keep it a secret, or like just somewhere to go. Like that was a stressful time, but it was kind of, I always had the attitude of like, okay, this is my situation, I need to find a solution, let's go. It wasn't like, fuck, my life sucks, what am I going to do, let me cry about it, oh my god, this is fucked, like blame everyone else, whatever. No, it was just like, okay, this is what we're in, find a solution, let's go. Like I always had that attitude. There was no like sitting around worrying about it. I mean, it would worry me in the back of my head, but I didn't like affect my mood. But then I guess in Corona, I don't know, I didn't have solutions all of a sudden. I was like, I don't know. And so I got stuck in this little rut for a bit. But I feel like I'm getting better at fixing it now. But yeah, it was a little bumpy there for a while.
Oh man, okay.
It's funny because Milton, whenever I like have these days or have like even just show signs of like one of these days is coming, Milton will be like, "Is your period about to come?" And I'll be like, "Fuck you! How dare you just dismiss it on that?" And then I'll check and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it is." Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. But he'll be like, he's just like really learned how to manage it. You know, he's like, okay, she needs a bit of extra love today.
Oh, that's nice. Question for you. What would you say like your weakness would be? Like if you were to say that you had a weakness, what would you say it would be?
My weakness would probably be wanting to do everything. Really, like my indecisiveness, actually, that is my biggest weakness. I'm so indecisive when it comes to like what to eat, what to do in a day. Like there's actually, that was something I got really depressed about, is I woke up and I didn't have like a plan for the day. I think my coach was away, so I was kind of just up to me to train myself, and I didn't have like a plan for the day. And I sat there crying till midday because I was just like, what, I want to do this, but I want to do that, but wait, should I do that first or that first? Or, but then the longer this went on, this indecisiveness, I was getting frustrated that I'd wasted like a whole morning doing, what did I have to show for it? And I was just like getting really frustrated. Anyway, yeah. So I'd definitely say my indecisiveness, whether it's about what I want to do in life, what I want to eat that day, like it's terrible sometimes. You know?
Yeah. But even on like a longer time scale, like did you ever think like, oh, like I don't know, like a lot of people's like, oh, I want to buy a house and I want to do this, I want to do that. Like, it's your career progression, right? It's just been a series of like, oh, that sounds sweet, let me do this.
Yeah. No, I mean, not really. No, I never really had much of a long-term plan. It's always been like not one day to the next, but kind of like I'll so when I was young, I knew I wanted to travel. I didn't know specifically, like I wanted to travel everywhere. So again, indecision. Like it wasn't like I had a list that I was ticking off kind of thing. But it was like I'd have a friend that'd be like, "Oh, I'm going to go to Fiji." Yep, okay, that's the next trip. I had a boyfriend who really wanted to go to New Zealand. All right, that's the next trip. Like, it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to go to this country, then this country, then this country, and I had a whole plan. Like, not like that. I just knew I wanted to travel. So that was kind of like my priority and my goal. And then in between that, like living life and making money, my priority was just always like having fun and being myself. And then with the gym, like the plan was just kind of like growing the gym, making sure people were achieving their goals, getting fit, and like, getting more members, helping more people and stuff like that. But it wasn't like by this date we need to achieve this, or by this date we need to achieve this, or anything like that. And then as far as like, and then moving to America, that was kind of like, I just decided that when I had the revelation about, our marriage ended, and I was sort of like, yeah, I can like do anything I want with my life. I can be anywhere. Like, what's really important to me? What would I kick myself if I didn't like throw myself into and have a go? And so then I decided I wanted to do boxing. And so I just kind of followed that path with boxing. But it's not like I set myself a timeline of like, okay, by this date, I'm going to turn pro. It was more like, okay, once I feel this kind of readiness, then I'm going to turn pro. Not really like a date kind of time. The only actually thing that I did plan was when I was a teenager, and even younger, I was like, I'm not getting married before I'm 30. But then I blew that.
The one funny way you blew.
Should have listened to my inner child there. Yeah, I knew from a young age that I just wanted to be like single and free, and not to be like be a slut and hook up with people. I mean, whatever, but like just more to just like be unattached and be not responsible to anyone but myself, you know?
Yeah.
And
free, yeah. Like just to be free.
Yeah. And even now, like I'm sort of I want to make sure I'm enjoying myself day to day. That's what's really important to me. Like, do I wake up and live a life that I absolutely love from start to finish? And at the moment, I can say that I do. And for most of my past, I can say that I do. And that's really my goal. And so my long-term goals are sort of like making sure I can maintain that. So for example, like me making money is making money in a way that I enjoy, and then investing it in a way that's going to set me up to be able to continue to live the way that I like, and you know, be able to travel and stuff like that. So I don't know, like when people are like, what are you going to do after boxing? I have no idea. What am I going to do even in a few years? Like, am I still going to be boxing? Maybe. I don't know. Like, if I still like boxing, then yes. If I don't, nothing else, I'm sure. It's like I've always kind of just like fallen into what I've liked. Like I fell into personal training when I met my ex. I fell into working in bars when my friend's girlfriend took me to that Coyote Ugly type bar. You know, it's like everything I did, I fell into working in Greece when my friend from the boxing gym offered me the job, and I just loved it. So I kept going back. You know, it's like I don't know, I just feel like I'll keep doing what I'm doing until something better comes along that I enjoy more, or that excites me more. So yeah,
that's super cool.
My plan.
Wow, that's super, super awesome. And you can tell like you have like a presence about you when you're at the beach, because I just feel like you're 100% present in every single moment. So in every interaction you're just enjoying the moment. And it's cool because I can't say that most people I met have that same type of feel. So that's very cool.
Yeah. Especially at the beach, because that's my time to just like there's so many people, so much like things going on. Like I don't want to be on my phone. I mean, I'll be on my phone if I have something I have to get done right there and then, but like it's such a good opportunity to just like throw your phone in the bike basket and just be like, what's going on right now? I don't know, it's like time away from connecting with anything outside what's in front of you, you know?
Yeah.
Okay,
I have like two more questions. The first one would be is how do you define a successful life?
Just figuring out like what makes you happy, finding a way to live your day from start to finish in a way that you enjoy, and also in a way that you can like maintain that and have longevity with that.
Okay, cool. And then what would you say would be 3 to 5 traits that you think is important to life? Or let's say if you had kids, like what would be the 3 to 5 traits that you would try to teach your kids?
Confidence would be number one. Like, you know what I love about the kids at the beach is that they'll just come up to you and start talking to you. You know, they have they have no shame. They have no like, oh, like I remember when I grew up, I was like, oh, it's an adult. I can't talk to them because I'm so inferior, you know? But I love these kids at the beach that they're just so confident to be able to talk to anybody and ask for what they need and have a conversation with anybody. So yeah, confidence. I love that. Honesty. I think that's really important. I hate when people lie. I think it's so bad. Making decisions. But like picking something and just going for it, not sort of like half-assing or like being on the fence because you're not sure if it's like what you really want or not. Just like making that decision and go for it and see what happens. Like maybe it sucks, but at least you know. So what's that? That's 3. um Working hard without expectation. I think that's really important. Like being willing to just like throw yourself into something, but not like thinking, oh, I did this, so why don't I have that? Because I think as soon as you start having expectation, that's when you start getting like sad and depressed and anxious and depressed. And, you know, because like, why isn't my life working out? It's like, okay, well, maybe it wasn't meant to just yet. Gotta keep working harder. I don't know.
Yeah.
And what's another one? I don't know.
That's pretty solid. I think those are pretty solid.
I mean, I think the last one was 2 kind of, so that's 5 really.
Yeah, you got it. And is there anything else that you would say, like if you were to give kind of a message to anyone, what would you say right now? Is there anything else you want to say?
Just like have fun and don't take life too seriously. Really, just like whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you laugh, like do more of that. And just, yeah, like don't let anyone tell you, or don't even let yourself tell you it's like impossible or you can't. Like, okay, maybe you might not be the Olympic champion, but fuck it, doesn't mean you can't do something or you can't enjoy it or you can't have a go at least and try it and see how far you can get. I think, yeah, just I think, yeah, I think people will be a lot happier if they just didn't take things so seriously in life, like things that people say, and they could just lighten up and be, you know, have fun, lighthearted, light about everything.
Nice. Well, you definitely live that out. And I guess it's the way that you're so radiant around the beach. I'm just like, oh, Avril's here. So it's cool. It's cool hearing about your life and then hearing how you think and then seeing the expression of it in the way that you live. So that's super cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. But thank you, Avril. Thank you for kind of sharing your story. You've had quite the life. It's really cool. Really,
Yeah,
really cool.
no, thanks for having me on.
And that concludes my conversation with Avril Mathie. You can find her on Instagram at Avril Mathie. That's AVRILMATHIE. Check her out on Instagram, give her a follow, and you can check out all of her links. Be sure to check out the website, www.humansoftheworld.co, and follow us on Instagram. That's at Humans of the World Podcast. There, make sure you join our Humans of the World global community hosted on our Discord channel and join some other cool people from around the world. So, with nothing more, I hope you have a fantastic day.